Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2.
While it's about finished eating, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. Those of you that are not finished, let's go ahead and finish your meal while we talk a little bit. We're fortunate this morning, again, in that we got a very distinguished member of our state legislature here, Senator R.B. Reeves from Macomb. Senator Reeves is chairman of the Senate Highways Committee and has been chairing a joint study committee on highway problems. Down in Macomb here several months ago, while we were putting on the series of workshops in the Central Valley areas, and had a little discussion with Senator Reeves about some of our problems in connection with the highway situation. Told him about this board meeting that we'd like for him to come up and talk to us a little bit about some of the problems. Now, I've explained to him that we're not trying to get him on the spot here this morning in terms of proposed legislation that this committee might be going to make in this upcoming session. But we are concerned about the problems in connection with building highways. We know that we got some real problems on the Gulf Coast and the Jackson County area especially, and then northeast Mississippi and the Tupelo, Corinth area up in there, you see. We all know all of these things. Now, there's been a lot of discussion, and the governor has been making a lot of noise about the need to revise the Highway Commission. We have 3 members now elected from each district to that commission. He's been proposing, some other people have been suggesting that this commission ought to be abolished, that we ought to have some kind of an appointed board, and then I guess they in turn would hire a director to run the highway department. Well, I've heard so much talk about this subject, and I'm sure all of you have, but I felt that we ought to be more properly informed as to what the problem really is. Now, it might well be that our system might be as good or better than some of those systems in other states. We just don't know. I couldn't tell you here today what we've really got. So Senator Reeves has accepted our invitation. He came down this morning, or rather last night, spent the night to be here with us this morning. I advise him we'd like for him to talk about this among other matters. And of course, if he got anything on his mind other than this, he's welcome to speak about it. Senator Reeves, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, sir. Lord, I appreciate you asking me. I'm glad to meet with you this morning. He's done this morning just like he did down in Macomb. He gives you a big build-up, you know. He says, "Won't you come out and talk with us and let's sit around and keep the bull." Then he says, "Now you get up and talk." And I didn't come prepared to make a speech talk. I want to talk with you, I want you to talk with me.
Right.
And let's just kick it around. We have had a study committee that's been looking at highway problems since the legislature adjourned last April. We've been extremely active, looking at a number of different situations, and of course, my thinking when the committee was set up was that it would be more or less a legislative watchdog committee to look over the highway department's shoulder. And, you know, most people perform better when they're being watched. The highway department is exception to that rule. Now, and let me say at this point, I'm not going to try to be evasive with you. Claude pretty well set the what he wanted me to talk about, and that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to give you all the problems that our committee has run across. The solutions, Claude, I'm going to leave up in the air. And I'm going to, you know, the recommendations of the study committee. And I'm going to do that because the report has not been released. And by agreement with the committee that it will be released either the latter part of next week or the first of the following week. So anything I say about conclusions is just me, just my feeling. As we began to look into the administration of the highway department, the one problem that kept popping up and coming up in everywhere we looked was the question of the makeup of the highway commission. As Claude has indicated, we have 3 elected highway commissioners, Southern, Central, and Northern districts of the state of Mississippi. They run the highway department. They run in a third of the state of Mississippi. It costs probably $100,000, wouldn't you think, Claude, to be elected highway commissioner? And when they make the campaign, and make the expenditure, they're going to run the show. And I don't know of anybody who would say that, you know, they ought not to do that. Now, we went down to Florida, and we had a 2-day seminar with the officials of the Florida Highway Department, and we're really impressed with the setup they have. They have a directed Secretary of Transportation. They have a Department of Transportation, and those people are really, they are efficient, they're sharp, they're on the ball. Of course, they got a lot of money. They're not like the state of Mississippi. The setup is good. That got us to thinking right there. Then we went to South Carolina, and we went to Virginia. We met, I believe, Mr. Williams from Texas. We had I believe his name was Dingwall or Ding something like that. Dingbat? At any rate, he's the former head of the Highway Department of the state of Texas. An outstanding man. He met with us, came over and gave us the benefit of his suggestion. Mississippi is the only state in the Union that elects its highway commissioner. And I didn't know that. I just want to say, the only state, the information I have. There are 46 states who appoint the commission. There are, let's see, Nevada has a ex officio commission, governor and secretary of state or somebody like that. South Carolina and Georgia select the highway commission members by caucus of the legislative delegations in that particular district. Mississippi is the only elected state. Now, why is that a problem? Now, I've indicated, and I think we can all agree, that if a man goes to the expense and the time and involvement of being elected, he's going to run the show. He said, I'm responsible to those people in that district. Now, that's fine. But, of course, how do you determine what highways to be? What order will they be doing? Priorities. You've got an efficient, professional highway department staff. They begin with long-range planning. And Mississippi has a fine. And I didn't know that, you see, until we made this stuff. I don't think anybody in the legislature really understood it. Perhaps you don't. But they make a long-range plan. They say, for instance, that we need to go through Tupelo with a 4-lane highway. Or we need to get the Lytton people off that little road down there that's sinking out of sight. You know, we need some plan. It would be nice if we could put a 4-lane road right here. All right, so that goes in the long-range plan. Then, since we've got behind them, they started on a 2-year plan. And in 2 years, they project what they are going to do, not what they'd like to do, but based on the money that they have available, what will they do in the next 2 years? All right, now all these things come up, you see, through the professional staff. They've gone out and they've surveyed, checked the needs of the population center, all these theories. And then it reaches the top. And the top man says, well, you know, that's good, but I promise these people I'm going to do something more things. So some of our money is diverted from essential, necessary projects to projects which are desirable but not necessarily essential or necessary. There's the problem, you see, with a professional staff working up and a political commission on the top. I don't know the dissolution is closed. I think primarily that this is the most important decision that is involved with highway construction in the state of Mississippi. As you know, we have a $300 million program authorized, I believe, in 1969, and a $600 million program authorized in 1972. So it's a $900 million program. Perhaps $150 million of that has been actually spent. Another $100 to $150 million is committed, and the remainder is in the planning stage. The Highway Commission has a vast amount of money committed and available for highway construction that decisions must be made. Now, Claude and I were talking a little earlier. Of course, this is tied to the economy also. It's bond money tied to revenues from gasoline tax. Now, the figures for the gasoline tax collection were down considerably for the first 6 months of this year. We don't know what 1974 was doing, or 75 or 76. But all of these bonds were projected over a period of time on a percentage scale. And I didn't go back and check it, but it's something like you've got to have for the last year twice the revenue available, or you can't issue bonds in more than half of the available revenue, so that you're well covered on your bonds. The only problem being that you can't issue them, you see. The revenue drops. You can't issue them, you can't build the road. That was a good protection. We put it in deliberately, but of course, you know, it may handicap the road building program. I don't know. The committee has worked on this was the single most important decision we were faced with, and frankly, it was just, we considered all sorts of alternatives. We had 10 members of the committee, we had a secretary, and we had an administrative assistant, which made 12 people involved. And I think we had 15 to 16 opinions as to how the best way to go about doing it. Now that's a little facetious, but we had nearly as many opinions as we had members of the committee. And I'm just going to mention some 3 or 4 that we considered. One is, one man, a director, elected statewide. Kind of like the governor, you know. It's a good idea. I like the approach to have one man running, but I think it's kind of far-fetched to think that we might elect one man statewide. We considered the governor making an appointment, a 3 to 5 member commission appointed by the governor, to be confirmed by the legislature. We considered the possibility of a 9-man commission. 3 members selected by the governor, 3 members by the lieutenant governor, 3 members by the Speaker of the House, to serve 6-year terms, staggered terms, from each Supreme Court district, so that you had a continuing commission. Let's say we considered the possibility of increasing the number to 5. Elect one from each congressional district. Those were generally the approaches we took. The general feeling seemed to be that the commission itself should be a policy-making board of directors. That the board or commission itself should hire one man to be a director, and that director should run the department, which makes sense to me. The commissioner himself should not be involved with what goes on in the maintenance crew in the 7th District office in McCall. And he shouldn't be concerned whether that man's you know, the cousin of his wife's best friend who used to reside or something of that sort, which you have now. You ought to be hired on the basis of you can't do the job, whatever it may be. So how do you go about taking $20,000 a year man, which is equivalent to the salary of the highway commissioner? Take that man, elected by the people, and say he's gonna become a part-time board setting policy. See, there you come right, it's more or less impossible with the present situation. The board approach, I think, is something. Whether you go appointment or enlarge it by election is something else. But I think that something needs to be done to ensure the fact that the professional staff who has planned the needs of the state for 10 to 12 years in the future, and it's come down and we say we've got this amount of money available for the next year and the next 2 years, what needs to be done? And I think the best example, or the poorest example, whichever you choose, of planning or lack of planning, is probably the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I remember I talked to somebody here from Pascagoula a minute ago. Well, I was involved to some extent with the Lytton Access Road. I forgot now when that was built, but the Highway Commission said, yeah, we'd like to build it, but we don't have any money, and it's going to be 5 years or so. Through our committee in the Senate, we passed legislation requiring them to get a road in there. So they got a road in there, and I think that's about all you can say for it. There's a road in there, right? And of course, since then, Ken Robinson came up here and showed me pictures. The thing was less than 90 days old and had potholes in it just surrounding. Just, and all of that goes back, you know, if you're going to have people come to the state of Mississippi to work, you've got to have a place for them to work. You've got to have a way for them to get to their home and their family. And you've got to have a way for them to get into town and spend all that money. So, you know, that to me is elementary. Right. And it would seem to me that any highway commissioner should be concerned about those plans, not yesterday, but 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. And that's what we want to do. The planning and the carrying out of those plans is an important thing. And who is the commissioner or how the commission is selected, I don't think is really that important. Now, is that broad enough and general enough? Any of you have any comments? Or
I'd like to.
That's a
I'd
two
like
thousand. Pascagoula.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Carol from Pascagoula. I'm concerned about I-10. There's no plans right now. We waited 20 years to get Highway 94 lane through Jackson County. Just this year, it's been 4 lanes through Jackson County. Now, I-10 is 4 lane automobile to the Jackson County line this way. There's plans for 4 lane I-10 through Harrison County, stop it right at Jackson County line. I think it's a disgrace to the state of Mississippi to allow something like that to exist. As much traffic as we have down there, and it would alleviate a lot of the traffic through Pascagoula to bring I-10 on through, and to help our people to get to work in Pascagoula. And I appreciate anything that you can do along them lines to get something going to complete I-10, because it's completed in Louisiana, it's completed in Alabama. And they're running right up to the Jackson County line at Highway 57, that's the end of it. There's no plan to bring it on any way soon, for about 1980, 85, or 79, or maybe year 2000. And I think just a disgrace. I think something needs to be a bar building or something like that.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. He said he got into that, and I'm interested in seeing what they really, see, this is the kind of a problem, we don't really know what the facts are, we've heard so much about it. He says they will get into this into their report. I realize we've got you on the spot here, Senator.
Well,
We have a good.
Committee has, you know, you got a report, it'll be, you will present it to, when?
That's part of next week,
Next
the
week?
first of the following week. Let me on
Yeah.
this. Now, we did look at that, and we have done all as a study committee that we could do to push the highway commission. Now, the basic thing is, at this point, of course, they've got some sort of landfill that's being tested, and the Corps of Engineers has said it's gonna take, a year or something like that to test out properly. Main thing is money. Of course, as you know, the federal government has cut back on the allocation of federal funds. Now, there is a possibility that some $40 million is what it's gonna take to push it up. Now, if the state would advance the highway department that sum or some like that, you probably could speed up construction at this point, 18 months.
This is the answer to the problem. That
Bill,
will be in your report in terms of the recommendation on it.
No, our report will only, well, I can't get what our report will be, excuse me. But, of course, what you're talking about is exactly what I'm talking about as far as planning is concerned. Now, we have the same thing up here, Baden to Canton.
Right, same kind of situation.
Same kind of situation. And for the last 2 years, when the legislature met, I have the commissioners come before the committee. The first thing we do is have a session, and the director. And man, we're gonna get that thing open just, in 3-4 months. Well, of course, the session ends, and then I read, well, it's been extended, and it's going over another year. This year, when our study committee met, we had them before us, and they were talking about opening it, Willis Falls. And we said, you don't have to open that stuff. And they went back and opened it within a month by the time they did the committee. So it's keeping the pressure on, keeping the publicity on. Now, if that had been done on the coast, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, highway construction, let me say this, is a long-range plan. And from the beginning, when you have an idea that you like a road, to the finished construction, it can run 7 to 8 years with no delay. Just normal. Now, excuse me. Do you have a question?
Yeah,
He's from the other end.
I'd just like to bring Gov in as a state insight. We don't have maybe as much traffic, but it is a death trap. And Alabama has their 4 lanes in the state line. And Tennessee don't like them just a few miles out of the state line. And there's 4 lanes in the middle. And if it's a disgrace to the county in South Mississippi to have 4 lanes on both sides, though, it's the same thing to the whole state of Mississippi and the north part of it.
I'm sure you found that this is where the problem is. The real problem is for South Mississippi and for North Mississippi.
Well,
Of course, Meridian's got the problem, but
they in
it
the
seems
highway.
like they might be correcting yours on it.
Are you from Tupelo?
I'm sorry.
Carn. Oh, you're right on up there on the line, aren't you?
Well, a lot of the senators and representatives and people in Mississippi thinks Mississippi stops at Tupelo. They go 6 miles far.
Two guys there.
I thought it stopped at Jackson.
I know these questions has been brought up before, based on the commission, but you said they have a planning group, and they're a good group. I want a couple of questions I'd like to ask. Why didn't someone think of finishing these highways, starting on these interstate highways from Jackson and going to New Orleans, and from Jackson going to Memphis and so forth, instead of starting on the other middle and running to the other states and funneling all the tax money and everything to Memphis and New Orleans? That's one question. Looks like they didn't do too good a planning there. And I'm from up in the northern part of the state, and we've just about decided the only thing we're gonna get done up there is do away with the whole commission and give our money to the federal government and see if they can't finish up the Natchez Trace, cause that's the only place we got to get out of here.
What's the speed limit? 50, 55 on the track?
50. He's from West Point.
Now, of course, you have a very valid point. And it just, at this point in 1974, looking back, it looks like they didn't do any planning at all. Now, of course, that was back in the day too, when we had 3 commissioners who had the funds allocated to them 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and each commissioner did with it in his district as he wanted to do. Now, of course, I'm from South Mississippi, and I've always heard, I'm not sure this is so tall, I rather doubt it, but I've always heard that we had better roads than y'all had. But you had the same amount of money, you see, so we must have elected a better commissioner, I don't know.
Let me ask the question while I've got to have one, I gave you 2, but I would like to ask one more then I'll try to be quiet, it's hard for me to do. How will, on election, we're electing commissioners now, 3 of us. And we, by the way, we are in better shape now than we was 8 years ago when we had this other man.
We're giving you 38% of the money now, too.
But how will, if we elect a man from my district and he don't do anything, how can we expect to get anything done when the governor or some other body appoints a man and he don't have any interest at all, and look like if the governor appointed a person, or the legislature anyway, they would try, it'd be kind of like this tricky dick deal. They could appoint him, and if he didn't do like they wanted to, serve the majority of his voters, why, they could kick him out and get somebody that would. And how can areas like this expect to do better is my question. By any other method. I don't get me wrong, I'm not against change, because there for a while we couldn't went but one way.
You're seeing a lot of results now, right?
Had to go up. Had to
Well,
go up.
let me say, my personal feeling is very much what you indicated. I like the elected process, personally. I think that, that way you got a shot at him over 4 years, and he's responsive to you. And if he doesn't do it, and you let him get away with it, then it's your fault, not his. Now, there's one of the now, I don't know as far as planning any answer I can give you. The elected commissioner is responsive to the people. And I have seen commissioners, I'm not present commissioners, I go back, way back in. But commissioners in the past have come to Macomb, to Coliseum, to Wesson, to Osaka, to the coast, to Hattiesburg, to Collins, Laurel, or North Mississippi, wherever. And anything anybody wanted, they say, I'm gonna get that for you. So, and if you promise 100 and you can only deliver 10, you've got 90 that may be mad unless you say, well, I'm gonna get to that next year. So, now, I don't know. Now, let's go back to the other part of your question. How would you have control? The idea is that this appointed commission, or enlarged elected commission, either one, they would make policy. They would not have anything to do with the day-to-day operations of the highway department. They would in turn elect one man, the position Mr. Butler holds today. And he would administer the entire highway program for the state of Mississippi. And in theory, now I don't know, in practice, maybe you've narrowed it down to one man instead of 3. But in theory, then all these professional staff people of the highway department will have their input, so that when it gets to the top, it's a professional job. It's not a political job. Now that's the theory. I don't think politics is such a bad. I think politics is our bread and butter. And you've got to have some politics in whatever you do, even in organization, right?
We got some good politicians sitting in this
Right.
room. Elected office.
I'm sure you have, and that, that's not bad as such, but it becomes bad if we sacrifice something that is good in order to take care of something that's not so good.
Well, the best 4-lane highway we have on the coast is Highway 90, number 1. There's been
enough people killed out in Death Alley, the insurance company should have, when they did the 4 lane just 10 years ago, and it saved them millions of dollars, you know, in lives they paid off. From the Biloxi Bridge to Highway 49, that highway, you know, you drive it at 50 mile an hour, you know, it's just like jumping off the top of a building, you know, you expect it when you get to drive. Last year, 900 and some odd automobile accidents over a 15-mile stretch of road. Can you imagine? That's better than 3 a day.
I got it sitting on that, wasn't it one of the, 10 or 15 worst roads in the state, in the United States?
The worst road.
The
worst road. Now, as Carol said, they always stop everything over at the Harrison County line and Alabama line. And Highway 63, the new Highway 64, I think it was completed in 1960. When it rains, you don't want to drive in the ditch or on the highway because it's a sea of water. It's completely covered with water. You know why? That's right. And it's, you know, you made a statement that, I guess y'all appropriate this money for these people in ways. I think that you're responsible.
We don't appropriate any money.
For the highway commissioners? Didn't you say that y'all ordered to build this road into it?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you the truth, they ought to put everybody in jail, that anything to do with that. $3.4 million. And you know how they blacktop that road? They take one of these old hot tar trucks, and they had that sand pumped up, and they just throw a little slag down and pour the hot tar. That's the reason there's potholes in it. You kick a hole in it where you put.
All right.
It sunk away from the bridge just much. You had to stop your car and creep up over to keep it off the front end.
Of course, what you're talking about is the controversy there between the highway department and the board of supervisors, isn't it? It's the maintenance.
You know, I think.
We got that one straight.
Yeah, we have to threaten to get Eddie Kyle and Peach down there and get that fixed.
Well, let me say,
Come away from the bridge.
What I'm saying is, I'm saying that the legislature should make the highway commissioners answer to them some way. You know,
Well, that's what we're trying to
why
do.
dump the money out to these 3 people when they spent all the money in North Mississippi building blacktop roads and fishing camps, you know?
I ain't seen it. Boy,
You wanna take the floor on that one?
Yeah, I'll take the floor.
There was a lot of this done too, because they didn't have to answer this.
Let me give you just a couple of points about what you're talking about. First of all, we have nothing to do with how the highway department contracts. Our job was to see that the employees of Lytton had a way to get in and out, and there wasn't nobody gonna do it. The board of supervisors says, pardon the expression, but hell no.
Right.
The highway department says, we sympathize with you, but when we get off Tupelo up there, you know, we'll come down and talk to you. See? We had to force their hand to get a road in there. Now, the contract provides, and I'm not involved in that part of it, but the contract provides that that road is gonna sink, that they put it in there, I don't know, the cheapest way maybe.
Throw it on top of the marsh, that muck, and it just keeps sinking.
If
So
they
you
had-
can pump it out and build a foundation on it, that's what
To
happened.
dig it out and put the firm foundation under it and build it like it should have been built. I forgot now the figure, but something $9 million. And the highway department said, we don't have 3. You see. I agree with you. But you have to take the circumstances you have. As you rather have that bog hole there or an overall.
Well, what I'm talking about, it's impossible for that road to cost $3 million. It's impossible. It only costs you $1 million a mile to build interstate, and that's nothing. You know, they didn't haul any field dirt, they didn't put any asphalt down, they just put hot tar and slag. That's what the road is made out of.
Well,
Somebody made a killing out of that.
Somebody, the taxpayers has had again.
Well,
It sounds like the $312,000 Barnett spent on the governor's mansion is rotted down. You know?
But
You
now,
know.
the contractor on that, of course, it's still pending, and he was overpaid, I forgot, just talking off the cuff, I don't remember, $180,000 or something, that's still in contract.
$2 million.
I don't even remember how much the contract was. We talking about 3, is that what
It
it was?
was $3.4
Yeah.
$3,400,000.
Well,
unbelievable.
It's better than nothing, but that's about all you can say. Somebody may kill you.
Well, I think that's probably true, and of course, there again is the problem that we're talking about. Somebody needs to look at that highway department and say, this is not the way to do it. And I think if our study committee, if we hadn't done anything else, if our recommendations come up and there's absolutely nothing, the one thing we have done is they're looking at them, they know we're looking at them, and they're now operating with us.
I feel like it's gonna be better too, because we had a meeting with East Mississippi Council in Pascagoula. We had people from Corinth, Tupelo, Meridian, everybody that you've gone in. And, Mr. Shad Byron has promised his cooperation and said it wouldn't, 63 would be 4-lane loose day within the next 3 years. Now, they're not gonna let the first contract in July, so I wanna see him do it.
Well, now, in our report,
He
when
said
it
he'd
comes
make,
out,
the contract will be let for a longer period of the highway, longer stretch of the highway, still that 2.4 miles. He said he's gonna try to make it 20 miles an hour.
of course, all this matters is hinged to your gasoline revenue, so watch that. Now, when our report comes out, there'll be a map in it. And that map will show what they propose, what is their final definite plan for the next 2 years. And you look at that and see.
It'll be in the paper, how can we get a copy of it?
It will be available, there won't be all that many copies.
Maybe
but
Claude
Claude
will
can
get
get you
some.
some.
You know, what's a real waste of money is Interstate 59 going down through Picayune. See, I have to come up and pick you from the test side at Poplarville. You know, you have to buy yourself. You want to knock out. Where's everybody? Everybody live in Mississippi. Nobody on the highway. I said, this is a waste of taxpayers' money.
Nice road, man.
They are nice roads, and we hope that the car depot with Interstate is gonna be nearly as nice.
Senator, do you see the current energy crisis having any immediate effect on highway programs?
I'm afraid it is. My first impression was that they're gonna sell the same amount of gas that they've been selling. But then I started talking to the gasoline people and they say, well, they're cutting it back 15-20%. So if there's not as much gasoline to be sold, there's gonna be less tax collected. There's less tax collected, that cuts back on the bonds that can be issued, which in turn eliminates your program.
Take long for them, they get this price up over there, and sell as much as they've been selling.
It'll be plenty of gas, ain't
Hey,
it?
they're just waiting for the price.
Chicago Bridge and Orange is working round the clock.
I thought that when it started, but I'm not so sure anymore.
Standard Oil got
They'll
that
start
money over
pumping
Pascagoula.
they'll start pumping these wells that, I don't know what they call them now, anyway, that don't pump too much. It actually now it's costing them, I don't blame them, it's costing them as much to pump it out as they're gonna get for it. But when the price goes up, they're gonna go back pumping these wells again.
I hope you're right.
I'll tell you what, the Standard Oil distributor, a friend of mine, Vernon Havner, and he told me he was gonna distribute his gas how long as he had it. And Standard Oil told him, said, yeah, and we'll put another distributor down there too. Said, you gonna distribute it like you tell you to.
But you see the other day, the president and the majors agreed they're gonna limit you to 10 gallons. When you go
Why
to-
limit it? Why don't you just leave the stuff alone, and when you run out, you just out?
Well, they're talking about 35 gallons a month. And I figure now I live 80 miles from here, down in the state. If I come up on Monday night, on Monday morning, and go home on Friday night, and park my car while I'm here, and don't move it in Macomb, I'd be 12 gallons short for a month.
I can operate 1 week on 35 gallons.
Well, that's about the situation all over.
Senator, one other question, you spoke in terms of your study having to do with maybe reforming the entire highway system as far as the administrative procedure, not speaking with any intent to reflect anyone's integrity, but it appears to me that if you spend $100,000 to get elected for 4 years, and your pay is going to be a meter gross $80,000, it seems to me that the highway commissioner might have something else in mind. You know, if I wouldn't spend $100,000 to make $80,000.
You wouldn't spend 100 to make it. All right. Now,
In other words, you don't want to 20,000 short at the end of the way, right?
that's the practical political approach I understand. Now, I should have mentioned it in connection with this. The truth of the matter is, nobody runs for highway commissioner, or most of them. They don't have $100,000. So I expect y'all have been tapped a little bit. I may come around, year after next, begging for a little help myself. But there are what we call special interest groups, that you might be a special interest group, that say, well, they'd like to see so-and-so be highway commissioner, and they finance. All right? Now, the commissioner may be the finest fellow in the world, but he's at least susceptible of the suggestion that he might be influenced. There has been a suggestion in some parts of the state that the commissioners call on these people for donations, for gratuities, for things of that sort. We've had some testimony. If it's out of his pocket, you're right, but if it's out of your pocket, I don't mind how much I spend, as long as you pay for it.
Well, I don't believe the one in the southern part of the state is getting a kickback because he's not blacktopping any roads.
He's not working it that way, Russ.
You're worried about that one in South Mississippi. You keep talking about our fish roads. We've had 2 highways built back in 1940. That's 45 and 78, and we ain't had one built since. And I don't know where that fish camp is. They was built in 1940, and we hadn't had one built since.
Let me say that I became
What do they do with your part of the money?
I don't know. You tell me.
We built roads, but ours done.
I became chairman of the Highway Committee in the Senate in 1968. At that time, we hadn't had a highway construction program since the middle 30s. They had patched and promised and covered over and ignored and done nothing. And we got knocked around and beat around and covered over, Claude, you remember that, many, many times before we were able to come up with a program. It's not the best in the world. I'm sure there is some wasted money. But we still think of the progress that has been made since 1969. Now, if we can take the money that's available and give it a professional approach and work at it like it ought to be, then Mississippi can have as fine a highway system as any state in the nation. And that's what we're working on. We're going to make some slips. But on the coast, you all ought to get together and say, this is the way we think you ought to develop our coast for roads. North Mississippi, same thing. Get your commissioner, whoever he may be. Say, this is the way we want to do it here.
Isn't this I think this is the reason that the highways are like they are now. They've had a Delta Council. Look who's got highways. South Mississippi, North Mississippi didn't have that block vote to elect to really put into it, and East Mississippi Council is getting something done, and I think you're along with a lot of help from people like you.
Well, the hope, Mr. McLean, Tupelo, that Hope organization, I was here in Jackson one time, they filled up the Heidelberg Hotel back before we started. And who would have ever believed there was that many people in the state of Mississippi interested in good roads?
I'm not sure that I want to do away with elected officials either.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Because if you take the man out of the Southern District, even sometimes we want to hang him, but sometimes we think maybe he's done pretty good, but we really don't know. That's right. And sometimes he'll answer your letters, sometimes he won't, but whenever you pin him down, he will acknowledge that he got it. But I wrote down from COU in Jackson County, and I don't know how it's supposed to be carried because it's pretty hot. But I think all that together has got his interest down there now, and I think we're gonna get some of those for a lot.
I'd like to make a comment. I don't know if you found this in your
498 Mobile before he does that stuff, Sarah. They done staking it off.
Over Columbia in the Harrisburg.
Isn't that some dang place to go on the highway?
Yes, sir, I live close to that, boy.
That's
That's the reason it's getting poured out.
It's not getting poured, I don't think.
We got 55 and 59 over there now, so you take a nap in the middle of them because of,
As far as county folks don't feel that.
They were trying to
Must be more votes up there.
No, 98 in some places needs it.
It does, it needs
The
to
stretch
go
from
on.
Hattiesburg to Columbia, for instance, is probably one of the worst accident roads in that section of the state. Every time it rains, it's a slick. It's in there, so you can just see wreckers pulling them out of the ditches in every direction.
James, you got the same thing from Lucedale to Mobile.
Right, I know that, yeah.
I know what you're talking about, that's the Columbia bypass you're talking
I wanted to comment on this.
Yeah, let's let the man from Meridian have a
You'll
word.
immediately recognize what craft I'm with when I tell you this. They talk about the roads that they built, it should have been $200,000 road for $3 million. We've had the problem in our area, and this is a political payoff, there's no doubt in my mind, I've told Mr. Sam Wagner this. We have a big interstate lighting job, right through Meridian, 5920. You know who the contract is awarded to? A soil erosion contractor. Has no idea about electrical work, whatever. And that thing has been a continuous problem. We've got people that work on it all the time. This kind of stuff, I don't know if you found any of this in the committee or not.
about. We really didn't get into the contract stage as much as we would like to.
But now, I think anybody would know that if you're gonna let a contract to a mechanical contractor for mechanical work, or a building contractor, but to take a sod, I won't say a sod contractor, soil erosion is a problem. But to do interstate lighting on a highway, this is ridiculous.
Maybe they figured it covered it up.
Yeah, but they won't burn.
There is no two wires. That's the way things is going, some of the electrical contractors are gonna get jobs digging wells.
Thank you so much, I've enjoyed it.
Let's give him a hand. Senator, let me say we appreciate very much you, coming out and spending some time with us this morning. We shall look forward to reading your report. I think perhaps that you will have some information in there that before we come to any decision. I'm gonna step outside with the senator for a few minutes. If you'd like to take a brief break with a cup of coffee, I'd like to talk a little more. Now, Adam was roughing on.
Still here, Conf.
Yeah.
Herbert, you got your expense report? Anybody else got the expense report ready?
We're writing checks till 10 o'clock.
We lost somebody. Who have we lost? Bob?
Underwood.
Who?
Underwood went up to his room, he'll be back.
Is he back in a few minutes? What you showing? There comes Jack. Oh, yeah, here he is. That gives us two that ain't here, huh? Underwood and,
I'm ready.
well, like I had said when I introduced the senator, when we had the area meeting in Macomb, CLU meeting in Macomb, I had an opportunity to talk to the senator a little bit about this problem, and it was at that time I felt it might be wise to invite him up here. I thought maybe this committee group that he's working with would by this time would have their recommendations report ready. You know, the legislature convenes on 8th. Now, of course, as he pointed out to you, they're not going to release that report yet. I think all of us are pretty well familiar with what the problem is in terms of where the roads, where the real problem is in Jackson County and northeast Mississippi especially. And that, of course, includes the whole northern corner. Of course, it usually wind up in the congestion in places like Tupelo and Corinth. The reason I asked him here, frankly, was to see if we ought to take a position in terms of revamping the current makeup of the Highway Commission. Do we want to support a move, for instance, to abolish the 3-man elected board and go to a single elected commissioner statewide? Do we want to go to the proposition some people's putting out on an appointed board, but some of them being appointed by the governor and other people, or not? Do we want to stick with what we've got? This was the primary reason we asked him here. Of course, we don't know what's going to be in the report at this time. I don't see how we can act with any logic here this morning until we see what's in that report. The only way I can see to deal with this situation now is to first find out if this board wants to leave the elective process, number one. Number two, do you think we are to stay with what we've got in terms of 3 elected officials? Should we support legislation to abolish the current setup and go to the 1 highway commissioner elected state at large? I think we can make those decisions, those kinds of decisions, without the report. But it appears to me we're going to still have to see what they have found here to still make a logical decision based upon, proper kind of information. The only way that can be done is to see the report, and probably the best way to handle that is to put it in the hands of the executive committee to take up when we get that report. That's pretty well is as I see it, so let's have some discussion. What do you think we need to do here this morning?
Well, you reported Mississippi is the only one that's still elected their people. If you can look around through the state, we've got the worst highway system in the whole United States. So apparently they're gonna come out with a recommend to change this thing up. We're making a change. We're on the bottom of the list, we can't get any lower. It's gotta be improved. If we're the only state with elections, we bound the people want it wrong. It's like a little boy marching in the band. Look at my son, he's the only one not out of step. And if we're the only one that's elected, we're bound to be wrong. Somebody else has done started electing them like Mississippi. I just get, see red every time I think about a highway.
Well, you guys have got problems down there that nobody else has got.
We got enough red lights up on that one little 4-lane road. The traffic backs up 3 miles. Mr. Shaggy Pyrons, #1 cat in Gulfport, says, why don't those people find other ways to go to work besides use Highway 90? They go out and put up another red light to back it up 3 miles. So that's the reason the traffic backed up 3 miles. Why don't they go to work by boat, airplane, helicopter, rail? Let's go to Randall's his name. He's got to be a edict like the Shaggy Pyrons. What they've done, they put up another red light to go to West River Bridge, and it backs it up 3 miles each way.
Well, do we have any other discussion? Can I get a motion, or what do you want to do?
I'd like a motion, if it's in order, that we not do anything, and maybe let the executive board at least let somebody look at these reports before we make any decision at all, because I think I'm sure that the people have done a thorough study of what's wrong, and I'm sure, like he said, that they probably won't correct everything, but I'm like Kelly is, it's got to be better than what we got. And
has to be a way of improving it.
I think maybe the executive board should look at this report, act on it after it comes out, study it.
You are talking about referring to the executive committee?
I'd like to, could I add just a little bit, wonder if, let's make a motion to accept Claude and Tom, study this report and make a report to the executive committee. Maybe they might want to do it on the telephone or.
We'll be happy to handle it that way. I'd frankly rather have at least the executive committee give it consideration rather than just he and I, at least that many people. Now, what I'd like to do is get copies of that report for every member of the executive board, and I should try to get enough copies and mail a copy to everybody. Now, in the event it looks like it takes some type of action, I would feel that at least the executive committee, the 5 vice presidents, Tom, myself, we should have a meeting, to make some kind of decision on behalf of the board. Is that what you're offering, motion? All right.
Let us know from northeastern part of the state so we can get Mr. Taylor down here.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I agree. I agree, and of course, if we can't get Mr. Taylor, we ought to get one of you guys in here, you know. Okay, that is the motion then, if the matter be referred to the executive committee to make a decision on behalf of the board. And we'll handle it in the fashion of outline. Do we have a discussion on that motion?
Claude, I'd like to say, something. I think everybody agrees we need some type of change.
Right.
But there's no point in just changing a procedure if it's not gonna help the highway program.
Right. Exactly right. Well said, Joe. This is what I tried to say in the beginning. You see, and I'm gonna put the motion after this short statement. See, back 5, 6 years ago, we made a concerted effort, this organization did, to change the makeup of that highway commission because of some of these same problems. And I don't think there's any question but what this organization is largely responsible for the election of Jumper in North Mississippi,
right,
and Shag Pyron in South Mississippi. Now, Wagner's a different story. But, you know, we did this. Therefore, we're concerned about the results of our activities. Right. You know, that's the reason we got the senator in here this morning. And after we see that report, we might have a little bit of idea, Joe, about whether or not we did the right thing or the wrong thing in the election. Sometimes I wonder. Okay, the motion's on the floor. Are we having any more discussion? If not, all in full favor of that motion signify it by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, at this point, well, I'm going to ask Brother Steve Williams, who's been sitting with us in the course of this board meeting. I introduced him to you earlier. I have a few words to say. I've asked him to speak especially about some of his activities in relation to organizing. And of course, any other thing that he might have on his mind he'd like to say, he's certainly free to do so. Steve, would you like to take the floor now?
Thank you, Joel. First of all, I'd really like to thank you and Tom and the board for allowing me to participate in your meeting here, sit and listen. You know, we're starting, the Machinists Union is trying to fill the legislative and political program among its members. And we feel that we need to sit and listen to learn what your program is so that we can be on board. Not here to try to give advice or smart off anything like that. We're just here to learn and listen, and we certainly thank you and the board for allowing us to participate in this meeting. We look forward to participating in at most all of your meetings so that we can stay forward of what your program is. We pledge our support to your program. Now with that, I'd like to make one comment, if you don't mind, before going into the organizing program that we discussed. I sat last night and listened with a great deal of interest to the report from your educational committee. And just glancing at that report for a few minutes, it's a real thing, a real concern. And I think that the labor movement, sort of here to give advice on things, well, I think the labor movement should think about it. If you just go down to the newsstand and buy you an old common almanac and look at the standings of the state, educational wise, see where Mississippi ranks. Then you look over at another table in your almanac, you'll find the per capita income and see where Mississippi ranks in that per capita income grouping. And then look over and see the percentage of union organization of non-farm employment. I think you'll see they'll all be, if Mississippi was number 39 in education, it'll be number 39 or 40 or 38 in education, and in percentage of organization. They all run about the same thing. You wouldn't really get the scales too far going from one table to the other. If you look, it's a very interesting thing.
Right.
My point being that we must become interested in a better educational system if we ever hope to raise living standards, the per capita income, and the percentage of organization of workers in any particular geographic location.
that's just a comment I'd like to make. Now,
Well said, I might say.
talking about organizing, 1963, when the Industrial Union Department of the AFL-CIO decided to set up 5 pilot projects. They started one in Philadelphia, one in Chicago, in the Carolinas, and in Texas, and in New Jersey. We wanted to see if all unions who had industrial membership cooperating and coordinating a program together in a particular locality could work together to organize the unorganized workforce. And I might say right here, it's a real thrill to me. It has been down here yesterday afternoon today. Everybody I've talked to is talked about organizing the unorganized workforce. Over in the office yesterday afternoon, both ladies in the office talked about in this casual conversation about organized and unorganized people. This is really the thing that we've got to do if we're going to carry on and continue as a labor movement. If we don't organize new people into the labor movement, we're going to die. And this labor movement's been going on, history will show us, at least 1,400 years before Christ. We got a long, it's not a new thing, but this IUD concept was sort of a new thing. Now let's just take the Carolina program and the Texas program are the only two still in existence. Now, they shut the others down for different reasons. Some of them I think are political, some of them for money, be that as it may, we've survived. Our record, I think, has justified what we've done. In the state of Texas, we have received certifications on 295 elections in the 10-year program. We've ran 295 NLRB elections that we've received certification on. We have 4 elections that are still tied up in objection. We like one election, having 300 elections in 10 years. But in the 295 elections we've run, we've won 174. We've lost 121. Now that, if you sit down and put pencil to it, and compare it with the national average, you will find out that we are way above the national average. So we believe, on the basis of the record, that you can organize through a cooperative, coordinated program. Now, what do I mean by cooperative, coordinated program? What we did, we sent out notices. Every international union who was affiliated with the Industrial Union Department on a national level. And we said, we're going to have a meeting in Houston, Texas, to see if we can set up this program. Now, if your union wants to participate in it, send somebody to the meeting with the authority to sign at least one man, one organizer, full time. And one man with the authority to speak to that international union, saying that he can submit targets to be organized and he can clear targets to be organized. So, very simple statement we set around the table after we got the commitments from the international unions. Number one, we started off with every organizing campaign in the state that a union had cards signed up in. We'd get agreement from everybody. Okay, if he's got the most cards, he could lay the most cards on the table today, even though this union might have 20%, this union 30%. Okay, brother, we'll go with the 30% guy. We got an agreement out of everybody. We would not touch one, we couldn't get an agreement out of it. We took the international reps and the organizers assigned from the different international unions, and we went out and we started organizing. Maybe this guy that had 20% of the cards, he said, okay, brother, you got the most cards, we'll clear it. The machinist union will agree that you run it. This machinist would go out and help, maybe a steel worker, organize that plant. The IBEW man may go over and help the operating engineer. The operating engineer may go over and help the IBEW guy. I defy anybody now to go to that staff when we're running a campaign and just listen to the guys and watch them when they're meeting with people or when they're house calling and find out what union that guy's from. you will believe he's from whatever union he's organizing for. He's got a copy of their constitution, he's got copies of their contracts, he knows their dues structure. He's selling trade unionism, and it doesn't make any difference which color ribbon it's wrapped in. And I think that we've accomplished something that just has never been accomplished in our section of the country. We've done this, and we've also trained 46 young guys right out of the shop, brought them into the IUD program, and run them in different campaigns for a year and a half. And out of the 46 we've trained, 44 of them, I believe it is, are now working for international unions. So I think we've made a contribution in our training program, much more than we have in the number of people we've organized or the number of elections we've done. Now, this thing is quite detailed, and I know that you're in a rush. It'll take up a lot of time with this morning, but Claude has asked me to mention some of these things to you. It is possible. I think I can go with any man in this room, and I don't know from whatever union all of you are from, but I believe I can sell your union to a group of people as well as you can. I believe I'm that good organizer. And I believe that in 6 months, any man in this room could sell the machinist union as well as I could, if it's a dedicated trade union. If he's out trying to organize people, the idea is, there's so many unorganized people that there's enough for everybody. There's more than enough for everybody. If we just get a cooperative, coordinated program going, and we're having a meeting at the IUD convention. Claude Ramsey came down the line and spoke to our convention, and he made a plea for the IUD to come into Mississippi and help in organizing. Russell and Brother Turner has been on my back ever since they walked in. They didn't even get in the door yesterday. They knocked on the door, and I opened the door. They said, "When you come in to Pascagoula and start organizing something?" They didn't say, "How are you? I'm glad to see you." Anything like that. When you come in and organize something, The interest in organizing in Mississippi is something that you just don't want to cross. It's really refreshing. It's given me an enthusiasm that I haven't had in a few days in being here. I'm going to take more away from this meeting than any of you. I can assure you of that. But what I started to tell you, Claude came down and he made a pitch to the IUD convention in Atlanta about organizing. At the IUD convention, committee was set up of international presidents, 10 international presidents. The committee consists of those 10 international presidents, Nick Zomeritz, the organizational director, Harold McIver, who is the coordinator of the IUD in the Carolinas, and myself. Now, we're meeting January the 22nd in Washington. My pitch is going to be to the organizational director, and my conversations with him between them. Let's look at Mississippi. We've got the money. The Industrial Union Department has got the money. Every industrial union that's affiliated is paying money into it. And we've got the money. We've only got 2 programs going. And our training program, where we can go out and hire these young guys and subsidize them out of the plant and train them for 6 months. And then if we can get them a leave of absence, renew their training period for another 6 months. We take them through all of the board cases, all of the unfair labor practice cases. We have them write their own leaflets, all of these things in training. This kind of a contribution can be made in Mississippi if we can sell the committee on January the 22nd. If you didn't want that kind of program, shouldn't invite me down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you coming over here today. This, of course, subject of organized and unorganized workers is dear to the heart of everybody in this room. I can assure you of that. Now, we're going to probably have a pretty good discussion on this subject when we get it opened up. And before we do that, I want to remind you that at 11 o'clock, I've agreed to allow Mr. Jim Blunt, the Mississippi Director for OSHA, to come by and talk to you a few minutes. this is another area, Steve, that we've had a ding-dong battle in here for a state takeover, and you know what that means.
We got the same battle.
So, they finally, the feds have finally opened up an office, you know, and since we was having this board meeting, I thought it'd be good for all of you to meet Blunt and give him a chance to talk and let you throw some questions at him. So keep this in mind, when we get into this subject. I've only got one or two other items that I don't think will take a lot of time. With a certain amount of luck, we ought to be through here somewhere around 11:30. I know some of you have got to get out of here, got other business to take care of. I know that I see Kelly shaking his head. He's got meeting, where is it, this afternoon?
When it got 43 and
At
3.
3, so we're gonna try to get through in time for you to make that trip. I know if you'd be able to stay on 50 to do it. All right, let's get on this subject of organizing. Now, I wrote the board a letter, a memorandum, on November the 16th. Sent you a packet of material. I sent you a copy of a letter that Alan Kistler wrote me, the result of a meeting we had in Miami, the advisory committee. My answer to him with that memorandum. Now, I'm sure all of you, this is fresh in your minds and your memories, that I don't have to remind you everything was said in this correspondence. I do think that you're entitled to an explanation as to how this all came about. And I must confess here today that perhaps I've been a little bit naive about this whole damn situation. Now, I'm like Steve talks about here, and I'm sure everybody in this room feels this way about it, that our major unfinished business in this state is organizing unorganized workers. Now, I will refresh your memories a little bit. Some of you have been around here for a while. Back when we merged the AFL and the CIO in Mississippi, I was one of the leaders in that movement and trying to bring about a unified labor movement in Mississippi. And I guess all that conversation and yakking I did during that period is probably the reason I wound up being president of the state organization. But I felt, frankly, at that time, that we couldn't afford a divided labor movement. And I'm very happy in this state, frankly. There are very few people around, Steve, and the labor movement in this state can tell you who the hell, where they originated from, CIO, AFL. We've done a good job, I think, in unifying the labor movement. I'm happy about that. But you see, some people at the top in this organization just damn well never did merge. And there's a lot of animosity out there that I didn't know about till I made a couple of moves in this area. I think it was back about 1966. I don't remember the exact year. Maybe it was a little before that. How long has this organizing thing been done here, Tom? When did we really get it opened up? Was it 66? Must have been
7 years ago.
7 years ago? All right, it's around 65 or 6. This all came about along something like this, that, Lige Williams is the director, Bob Stone's assistant director. They can't get along. Bob's sitting around the office, ain't doing nothing according to Lige. Wants to send him over to Mississippi. Now, he told me this Seth wants me to run him off. This is what he told me. Because I don't want this kind of crap to get outside the room. Just keep this to yourself. We made provisions for Bob to have a desk in our office. And that was about the extent of it. He was sitting there doing nothing. Well, we got all of these people trying to organize workers. Organizers are coming and going every day. And the girls in our office are working their fannies off and trying to prepare material for organizers to help them. So we had a series of meetings. Some of y'all remember this. And out of this, it was agreed, the organizing department itself agreed, to open up a sub-office in Mississippi, hire a secretary, assign some staff people in Mississippi, and take over some of these things that we had been doing. And we put together a coordinated program similar to what Steve's talking about, directed by Bob Stone. And I think the program made some progress. It did a lot of good. not as much as it should have done. The thing ought to have been in North Mississippi, frankly, is where it ought to have been opened up to start with. All right, you know, we got more interest now than we have had in recent months and with unorganized workers than I've seen in a long time. Down here about a year ago, I was talking to Joe Davis and Howard Underwood about this, and they want to know, can't we get something going in North Mississippi, right? So I proceeded. I told Joe what to do, and it didn't work out. Well, one thing leads on to another, and this is a long story. We ain't got the time to get into all that. To make that long story short, you know, I'm serving on Manny's advisory committee. He set up a committee several years ago of state and local central body officers who would meet and make recommendations to the executive council. And I must say that committee, I think, has done a lot of good in terms of affiliation and the whole bit. Well, I didn't know Alan Kistler was at this particular meeting in Miami Beach. We've got this problem to deal with. You know, I thought this was a place to bring it up. Keeping in mind now that I had prepared, the secretaries had prepared, a raft of material that we'd made out to International Union showing them the number of unorganized workers in the state, especially in northeast Mississippi. I had invited Nick Zonderich to come down to a meeting of the organizing committee. Still not dreaming that we still had a lot of this old animosity around. Well, I found out that there was a hell of a lot of coolness towards Nick Zonderich. So I told Nick after he left, I said, well, it's very obvious that we can't get anything set up here with IUD under the existing situation. So I took it up at the Miami Beach. The AFL-CIO had announced a program to restructure the internal organization. And it appeared to me that this was a place to have a word to say about this restructuring. For God's sakes, us eliminate this damn animosity between the organizing department and the industrial union department. Damn it, they're both in the same organization. They're paid with AFL-CIO dues money. Why should we have this kind of crap? Why can't we have one department to organize? So that was the reason I brought this matter up in the meeting. I didn't know Kistler was even there. It's a big damn place, and a lot of people that I guess didn't have the business room was there. Anyhow, I know now why they were there. Well, about the time I got into this, laying it all out for what it was, Mr. Kistler speaks up. And he wants to start jawing at me. Well, now, Kistler, you know, hadn't been around as long as I have, as long as some of you folks have been around, and so I had to tell him a few things. Of course, you know, Claude Ramsey's got to tell him pretty well like it is, so I proceeded to tell him like it was. Well, that gentleman, after that meeting, apparently went to his room and wrote this damn document. I got it about 3 weeks later. Tom picked up in the mail one day and come in mad as hell. Just look what you got in the mail today. Well, I took a look at it, and it went to someplace before it got to me. This damn document was written and mailed to every member of that advisory committee, trying to, I guess, justify his existence, or the organized department's existence, you know. I wasn't after Alan Kistler, Bob Starnes, or anybody. Hell, I'm interested in trying to help people organize, you know. Well, I sat on it around there for several weeks, as Tom and Callan can tell you, before I decided what the hell I wanted to do about this thing. Of course, I was mad, I admit that, but I decided I ought to cool off a little before I did anything. So after giving it some thought, I decided I had to do something. So I sat down and answered the letter. And I wrote you a memorandum. I sent you a copy of the document. I thought you ought to see the thing just as I got it. My answer to him, tried to explain to you briefly in the memorandum. Now, I want everybody here to understand that I'm not after anybody. Bob Starnes and some people in the organizing department have took personal affront at this. They think that Claude Ramsey is out to get rid of Bob Starnes or somebody in this organized department. I'm not out to do that. I don't have a damn thing against Bob Starnes. I don't think anybody here does. I want that clearly understood. I'm interested in trying to help build the labor movement and trying to organize unorganized workers. To me, the IUD concept that Steve Williams has touched on is the approach to the problem. It has been for a long, long time, and we're attempting to put it together here, Steve. I'm happy you're here to tell us what you've done. And I'm interested in seeing those slides and what education program we got, and if we can, the next time we have a board meeting, we're gonna invite you over and bring your paraphernalia and show us a program that you've got over there. That's about as brief as I can make this one. I thought you were entitled to an explanation, and we ought to have a little discussion on this matter because, you know, this thing, if it keeps festering, you know, might then, some people would probably want to create some problems. I'm not overly concerned about it. I think I'm right on this one. I'm still hopeful that the Executive Council will restructure this thing and put somebody in charge of the various departments, as I understand it's supposed to do, that they will deal with this and eliminate this animosity at the top. This is what I hope will come out of the whole damn thing. That's about all I think I need to say at this particular time. I'd like to throw the floor open to some discussion. We do have several.
I'd like to make one comment.
Yeah.
Let's don't get too interested, too involved in organizing the unorganized and forget the organized, but we've got some organizing to do with the organized.
Well, that, I guess is enough said. I think everybody agrees with that too. We
You
certainly.
don't believe it, you go to attending some local union meetings around over the state where they've got 300 or 400 members and they've got 10 people sitting there trying to get a form to have a union meeting.
Well, yeah.
In light of you talk about the animosity, let me just say this before.
Yeah.
When we started this program, Nick Zonner, it's the organizational director, took this position. We don't raid anybody, we don't raid District 50, we don't raid an independent union, we don't raid the Teamsters, we don't raid anybody. That's number one. Number two, we don't run a campaign that any other union has got an interest in. And if the AFL-CIO, so the animosity is not out in the field. We have never run a campaign in
Right.
IUD where we didn't have complete agreement with everybody concerned, and this includes the AFL-CIO organizing director in the area in which we work.
Well, you
No
know,
animosity out in the
you know,
field.
the problem's not here. The problem's not here, and frankly, I'm getting down hacked off at this kind of crap. We got another problem, and I'm not even gonna bring up here, affecting some manpower program we got here, but I am damn tired of people in that damn building getting a personal grudge against one another, and then we gotta deal with something down here. I just don't think it's right, and I intend to have a word or two to say about that before long. You know, because that's another subject, Steve, but, you know, the people in this state, in this labor movement, in this room, damn it, are concerned about building the labor movement and organizing unorganized workers, and I don't know why the hell we have to put up with this kind of crap. I guess everybody here pretty well feels that way. I know that, well, that's just about everybody here in this room, you know, has been active in organizing activities. They know what I'm talking about.
I'd like to ask
Yeah,
Steve a
you-
question. Could you name those 10 international presidents, of what international
Yeah, give us the
they
names of the
represent?
people on that committee.
I
We
don't
need-
have them all with me. In fact, Phyllis, I don't, if I had my briefcase with me, I could, but I can tell you, Abel is the chairman, of course. Red Smith from the machinist, Charlie Millard from the IBEW, Peter Bomarito, I believe it is, from, rubber workers, Shaken, new,
School teacher.
Jack Chinkman for the amount.
Chinkman.
Well,
I believe
Right,
Cole.
right, he's
Yeah,
on.
from,
Right.
the amalgamated, and, Nick is a member of it, Harold McIver is a member of it, I'm a member of it. Operating engineers, president is on it, pardon? No, the big.
Wharton.
Ronald Wharton is on it.
Yeah.
Let me see, Seldom of the teachers is on it, although I'm surprised at that because, you know what went on with the AFL-CIO convention, he may not be on it long. I'm very sorry, I don't have that.
Oh, yeah,
I
you answered my
apologize.
question, I was wondering about the IBD.
You wanna know about the
Well,
law, I guess.
yeah.
Well,
Well, let me
Steve,
ask-
you'll make that information available to me and I'll get it to the board when we send out the minutes. I'll provide all this information to you.
Nothing,
Most of the major industrial unions, what it
I've
adds up
seen a
to.
list published someplace.
They publish it all over.
I think it was in the AFL-CIO news, after our UD convention, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been published, I just don't happen to have it at my fingertips, I'm very sorry, I apologize, I should have.
Oh, sorry. On this meeting you've got January the 22nd, I believe you said?
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to, make a pitch that they set up IUD program in the state of Mississippi? Does what I'm getting at, does this group have the authority to say, okay, we'll do it?
This group has the authority to do anything toward organizing, and the convention voted this, set this group up and voted it.
Okay.
Now, I said to make a pitch for organizing Mississippi. I'm certainly going to make a pitch about the enthusiasm in Mississippi in my business down here. When I visited down here, not for the purpose of organizing, but on another assignment.
Yeah.
And, I have no vote, the only thing I have is, a lowly representative don't vote for international president.
To be seen but not counted.
About like president of state council.
Yeah.
The IUD is an autonomous group, but it's a department of the AFL-CIO.
Right.
This is a department of the AFL-CIO's organizing.
No, that's the hell of it, that's why that's what we're talking
It's a
about.
department.
You've got two departments, the
Yeah,
AFL-CIO's got a regular organized department, and IUD's got a regular organized.
Maybe I can clear this up. You see, on the old AFL, they had an organized department. With the merger in 1955, they set up an industrial union department of those old CIO unions and the industrial unions within the AFL, such as machinists, IBW, the pipe fitters had industrial membership, the operating engineers had industrial. It was a council of industrial membership, really is what it was. And out of that, the industrial.
You left that one important fact, headed by Ruther.
It was headed by
Right.
Ruther. But I just took for granted everybody knew that, but, this department set up this coordinated cooperative program, and it was no secret about it when it was set up. There was a political fight between Ruther and Meany. Ruther was trying to use the industrial union department to push Meany into organizing. Meany's philosophy is, President Meany's philosophy is, I don't mean any disrespect when I say he, President Meany's philosophy is that each international union should do their own organizing. I don't know which is right. I know what our record is in this cooperative program that we've run, and I know what the cost per member is. The cost per member is not even in the ballgame of what it costs an international union, because if we're running 6 campaigns out of one office, and the IUD is paying for the office secretary, all the printing, all the mailing, and everything else, and we can use the 6 representatives that's heading up each one of these campaigns to go out and hand-bill the other 5 plants and use them to help hand-bill that plant. And we set up our house calling. If I'm working in a 10-block area in this town tonight, I'm gonna house call everybody that lives in that 10-block area that I can get to that works in any one of those 6 plants. I'm not gonna run all over town about house calling this one. This is the way we talk about coordinated setup.
Right.
And when we meet and have a staff meeting, once a week, we talk about every campaign. For instance, you take 2, 4, 6, 8 guys over here, that y'all are working, you would know as much about his campaign as he would about that campaign, because you house call his people and you lay it on the table once a week. The problems you got, what you're having, the rumors, everything. And this is the way we work. That's the reason why I said you can't tell what union one guy belongs to in the campaign he's working on, of the way he's talking. It's given our people a real broad outlook on the labor movement, I think.
Joe, we need that set up and keep it low.
Well,
I'd like to ask a question.
what could I do as an international representative, and what can Joe do as a business agent to influence these people at this meeting to set up this department in Mississippi?
Let me tell you what we've already did. As the president of the Central Labor Body there in Tupelo, after this conversation with Claude, we adopted a resolution asking the IUD to come to North Mississippi and set up their shop. We sent this to Nick Zonerich and all.
Right, that's
You know,
when I
throughout-
got him down
right.
here, and we'll follow up on your correspondence, right?
Let me say this, and I don't know what the is, I say, talking to Paul yesterday afternoon, I stand up where I can see you. You asked what you could do, and I don't know whether it would pay off or not. But I asked Paul yesterday afternoon after I heard all this conversation, people wanting to organize and all that, I said, Paul, why don't you write Nick and ask him if he will put this before this board meeting on the 22nd, because they're meeting to talk about organizing. That's the only thing that's going to be talked about is organizing, you see. And I, for one, told Claude yesterday that I told you today, I'm going to have to tell the people about the enthusiasm in Mississippi. It may not be anything, we may not accomplish anything, but the most it can cost you to write a letter to Nick and ask him to put it before him again would be 8 cents, you know, and 20, 30 minutes of your time.
You think offense on my part would help any? Should I call Nick and talk to
Claude,
him? I'm going to write it, but if my presence there would help any, I'd be happy to go down and meet with him.
Call Nick.
Call Nick?
I don't know, you know, whether Abel has asked him to set up the agenda, or whether Abel has asked Clayman to set up the agenda, or whether Abel is setting up the agenda himself. See, all I did was get a call from Nick telling me that the meeting is set for the meeting.
Well, obviously, I need to contact Nick Zonerich. I tell you what I'll do, Joe. I'll call Nick. And, of course, I talked to him briefly at Miami. I didn't have time to talk to him much. But he and I talked just briefly about this thing. Nick Zonerich is very much interested in trying to help us get something done, I can tell you that. After I talk with him, if he thinks that my presence there would help, I'll damn sure go, even though it's the legislature will be in here, but just check the calendar. They'll be in committee meetings mostly at that time, and I think I could probably get all done it. But Steve, wouldn't you think a letter from the various members of this board to Nick Zonerich or Abel as president of IUD about their concern and interest in organizing and trying to get something in Mississippi, wouldn't you think this would have a definite bearing on it?
I think a letter to President Abel was a copy of Nick Zonerich.
They copied in Nick. Okay.
Asking to consider establishing a program here such as we have in the Carolinas and Texas.
Right.
I think at least if we get it up on top of the table and give us an opening to discuss it. As I say, it'll only cost you 8 cents and 15, 20 minutes of your time.
Let me ask you one more question on the,
Cost you 8 cents for you made it, if you made it for Monday, after that, it ain't no more. It goes up, you know.
I'm the only one that's bankrupted around here, so the rest of
on the makeup of the IUD, I believe you said that each international would have to permit one person, and then you would get these people out of these plants, or how do you do this?
The way we do, each international that wants to participate in a
Yeah.
particular locality agrees to assign at least one person. Now, some of them assign 5, some of them assign 6, some of them assign their whole organizing staff in that particular area. See, it don't cost, but we are able, through the IUD, to hire local people and train them. For instance, I gather from what you said, you're from the IBW.
Right.
Okay, suppose the IBW had a plant in Oshkosh, and we were working in there, and you came and said, look, we got a nice young guy over here, or a young lady that we think makes a good organizer. We'd like to give her a shot at organizing. I'd arrange to have an interview with her, with him, not tied to the IBEW. Because if we bring the person on and put them on the staff on a training program, if they don't work out and they have to go back in the plant, then the person is not mad at the IBEW. They're bad at the IUD, and that don't hurt us because we're not political, see? but, you might have to run for business agent sometime or something like that, so you don't have to put the person.
Yeah, about every 3 years.
He's good enough, he don't even have an opponent though.
Well, this is not true in every case, but we do the hiring and we do the putting back if they have to do it, but it gives international a chance to look at that
Yeah.
person and see if they can develop. And we've trained, as I say, 46 people, and I think 44, if I've got the record right now, are working for international unions today.
And the IUD pays their salary.
We paid it.
Here's the training.
Yeah.
This training program, we can keep them on for 6 months if we can get them on leave of absence. We don't take anybody that can't get a leave of absence,
Right.
because we're not gonna be married to them.
Right.
And then we have the, started to extend that 6-month program, one other 6-month period, where they give them a year's training.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to go back in the plant if the international no more pick them up.
Mhm.
Because we have some full-time staff people that are represented by the newspaper union, and that's in our contract with the newspaper union. We can bring these people out. We have the money to put them out. We don't pay them, what we do is, to be very frank, we pay them $175 a week, plus $30 a week for their car. We pay their insurance if they have to pay insurance, if their dependency insurance or their insurance, group insurance, we pay that. We give them credit cards to run the car. It's not a big thing, but they're in a training program, and it runs about anywhere from $250 a week down to $225 a week is our cost, and that's about what we take up. But we have the money to do these things. We can't just load up the staff. We have to use our own, try to use our good sense.
You
and
provide
we take
a
our
director,
record
don't you?
of people,
You provide a director, somebody to coordinate the program, don't the IUD handle it? Then the office and equipment to do handbills and stuff like that, right. See.
Well, let me ask you another question. Oh, you said, you provide the director. Would this be somebody out of the IUD, or would this be one of these international reps?
Well, we may pick a guy. For instance, I'm on the payroll machinist and been on the payroll machinist ever for the 10 years I've been assigned. But my assignment from my international was to work in the program. Nick Sonrich picked me to be the coordinator of the program. I don't answer to the machinist. I'm helping the vice president on this political program now, simply because I have the time to devote to the people we have on the IUD staff has been there long enough that they don't need all that supervision and direction.
That sounds like a good setup.
So we may pick somebody who is from that area, who knows that area, to coordinate under somebody Nick Sonrich would want to pick. Because he's this organizational director, and you've never met a man more dedicated to organizing unorganized people in this country. And he doesn't care who he's working for or anything with. See, the IUD pays him.
Yeah. If you got a plant, say a large plant that internationals couldn't agree on, you know, who had proper jurisdiction, you just leave that one alone?
We don't mess with it. It's got to be an agreement among the people who are working in the program.
Yeah.
Now, just suppose, for instance, that we had, in Jackson, Mississippi, 10 organizations participating in the program. And one organization that was not participating, although he was, that organization was affiliated on a national level. If that one organization was not participating, he went out and started got on that target, even though we were on it for one of the 10, everybody had agreed that one person out of the 10, we would go in opposition to that guy that was outside the program. It's who's in the program in that area. We organized for it. Our theory being, people ought to be in the meeting.
Right.
Going back to meet in Washington.
Are they gonna be in Washington to meet?
It seemed to me that a letter from you signed by you said that entire executive this morning. Would be a lot of trouble getting signatures from the entire executive of Mississippi.
You think that would be more effective at each one of them to write a letter themselves? Might be better, a letter from each one of them instead of just one letter. What do you think, Steve?
too.
Letter from each member?
I frankly, I believe just a simple one-paragraph letter from each person addressed to Eagle at the IUD headquarters, because that's where the correspondence was handled there. The IUD headquarters, which is in the AFL-CIO building in Washington, 815-16 to get northwest,
With a copy to Nick Zoner?
with a copy of Nick Zoner.
Also at the same address?
Yeah, it's the same address.
Yeah.
That would probably be more.
On your particular letter here.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Signing of your title.
Yeah, that's right.
Building slip without being built.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe
Bob
that
looking at the carpenter.
would be a little more.
Well, you know, I think maybe we ought to take, some formal action on this, remember, the board at least go on record in this, anything comes up. Again, hopefully they'll get this business squared out under the reorganization structure, but I don't think that we can, afford to sit back, because we got a few sore heads around and think we're trying to rock the boat too much.
Well, let me ask you
Yeah.
a question. I've been somewhat involved in this controversy since I've been on both sides of the question, since I got friends of long standing on both sides of the question. Do you think in this reorganization there is a possibility that this problem between the regular organized department of the AFL-CIO and IUD is gonna be solved or not?
I think a lot depends on who heads it up and what his attitude is.
Well, one final question, I know somebody, I don't remember if it was, Kistler or the guy that left the organized department ahead of him, that's doing something else now, said.
Bill Kircher.
Kircher, I believe, was the one that made the remark, as I heard it, that if the IUD came to Mississippi, they'd pull all their people out. Is that still true, or what is there?
Bill Kircher told me in that telephone conversation that,
Of course, when you say all their people, I think they just got two, but I was just wondering if that was
Yeah.
still an issue.
well, he said basically what he said was that if we followed through on this program and set one up in Mississippi, he wouldn't have any choice other than shut down the Mississippi office and take his
And
people
move it out.
elsewhere. That's what he said.
In other words, he was
They
leaving
still-
you.
They
Yeah.
still have their same 4 people in Texas.
Yeah, I understand.
And we can operate next.
As far as I'm concerned, both organizations could operate in the state, but they seem to be taking the position that it wouldn't happen that way, and I just wondered if that was
Well,
still
quite
true.
frankly, I agree with the philosophy that we should have one organizing department.
Right.
And when we first started this program, we met with George Meany, and George Meany was susceptible to us working out of the AFL-CIO headquarters.
Oh, I'm familiar.
In each area. Then, when we met with Jack Livingston, who was
Then the
then
director.
the director, and Bill Kircher relieved him, both of whom were out of the USS.
Right, I know both of them.
They didn't see it that way.
No.
And we're not in competition with anybody, nobody.
Right.
And they still don't see it that way,
They
unfortunately.
still don't see it
Right,
up
that's-
there, but
right,
when
that's-
once you walk out of that building, you don't have that.
Right, I
The
understand.
regional directors of the AFL-CIO and the IUD people work together all the time, out in the region. We just don't have that program. That is the point I'm trying to make. There's no animosity.
I'm completely
And if the
confused.
AFL-CIO would set up such a program and really get in it, I would be hardly in favor of seeing the organizations in that area go to any coordinated program. I don't care
Right.
whether it's ISD department.
Well,
It's a coordinated
we've had a
program.
coordinated thing of sorts, really all it's amounted to is jurisdictional clearances. It's really hasn't amounted to anybody directing anything or putting any money into it to speak of. It's been more of a clearance thing. It has kept down some jurisdictional disputes,
It
and
has,
organized
yeah,
campaign, and it's helped. But the whole IUD thing I am familiar with, for years, we've had a person assigned to the Carolina program, for instance. It works, for the amalgamated, but like he was assigned to the IUD that hadn't done any direct work to amalgamate, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, however long it's been in existence. It's a lady, by the way, up there, one of our people. So I know exactly how it operates, but I was just wondering what the implications was still on a local level between the AFL-CIO and IUD, and would this reorganization thing come soon enough to at least solve enough of it that we wouldn't get into just a general mess, trying to bring it about.
Under the, yeah.
two things. Number one, Bill Erskine, who's been picked by me. Bill Erskine hasn't me. I've known Bill Erskine since he came in, he's prominent in this issue. He hasn't agreed to take that job yet, at least, that was his statement to me.
Yeah, I'm aware that he's.
But be that as it may, the same people that's going to be sitting in this IUD program meeting on the 22nd are, most of them are the same people that sit on the AFL-CIO Executive Council.
Yes,
So, you can't go wrong.
Right.
By putting in if they're not gonna move in the IUD, then maybe it will help them move in the AFL-CIO Executive Council.
Right.
You can't lose anything, as I see it. If they have in their mind, just make it one department, then you're helped that way.
Sure.
The idea is to get some organization.
But it's not a problem for my organization either way. We've got a record that we'll do our own organizing, we'll take whatever help we can get. We'll also help anybody who wants help or coordinate with any coordinating program operating any place. So we do it both ways, but we're one international union, probably spent more money on organizing than most of the others. Because we've had to survive. I mean, we've got 8 organizers working in this state now under my direction. We've got about that many campaigns going. We're not getting any particular assistance from anybody. We haven't asked, frankly, because everybody has their own problems. We do show up to meetings and ask for clearances, and other than that, we go our own way. But if an IUD campaign is set up, we'll coordinate whether there's a campaign in the area where our people decide. No question.
Steve, whatever might be worth, we got several people here that's been rather active in organizing activities. Curtis Orman down there just recently went on the staff of the Boilermaker. Jim Jackson, of course, is state director of Amalgamated Clothing Workers. Let's see who else we got here. Underwood just recently went on the staff of the Rubber Workers. You know, of course, you've heard from several others. You know what Russell's been doing. Joe Davis been talking about some of their activities up in northeast Mississippi.
I just haven't run across this much enthusiasm about organizing.
Well, you had, you know,
I'd like to say a word there. I've been talking to you and to Tom and to quite a few of these people on this board for a year or 2 years about this type thing.
Right.
Before I ever even heard of IUD.
Right.
I've invited these other international reps to let's come to Tupelo and let's try to get together and let's go to work up there. And since I have started on the staff about 3 months ago, you'd be surprised at the people that call me every day from the different plants.
Right.
And I turn around and I call Joe. If I think this was Joe's, I call Joe. And I tell him, I said, let's go meet with these people. And the upholster workers, we've got quite a few of us already, 3 or 4 of us right now that's working. We swap cards, we swap contacts, and it's working.
It will work.
It works.
That animosity is not on this level.
No.
Hell no.
It's in that horrible balance.
Right, that's
Marble
where it all begins and ends.
Get in a den of shops or unorganized people, and what do? If you hit one of them, the others over there, man, they rush in to help just like a old setting hen. If you bother an old setting hen's nest. And if we go in together, if they jumped in to help, we could hit them.
I'd like to comment on
this
that.
thing of giving other people information if we pick it up around where we're working, and they do the same for us, we first find it.
Curtis is exactly right. This is why we first started talking about this thing 2 years ago. Up in the northern part of the state, we've had several elections, but we've always got beat. IBEW won a couple of the co-ops. I think as the last 2 elections been won up there in 3 or 4 years. But they have them, the bakery and confectionery workers just lost one in December, by the way, Hardin's Bakery. They had almost 90% of the cards. Election lost it. That whole area works against that one little group of people out there trying to vote the union in.
The business community.
The business. If we could hit them all at one time, hell, they couldn't fight everybody. You know.
You just got through with one.
That's exactly right. Almighty was in there, and by the way, it wasn't planned that way, but it sure did help, because if we didn't shake up that whole town, and that's all they was talking about in the city of Starkville.
But we're still there, we hadn't gone to
That's
an election yet.
exactly right, and,
Fact
but,
is, I got 3 or 4 organizers staying there this week.
there's a planted, clock company and, furniture company and, 3 or 4 more there. They are in there fighting just as hard as the two plants
Right.
we're trying to organize.
Right.
What can we do to help? And they spreading the rumors out all over their plant and everything else. In fact, I think they made more damage than the company that I was trying to organize did. The other company spreading the rumors.
Yeah.
Because they could spread up, and I could file charges against them, and I could file
A lot of
charges.
times when that starts, you just go and pull leases out their plant and sort of gets their attention. A lot of times whenever you're trying to organize the maintenance people, if they get you hollering, you throw leases out, inviting the office employees to meet.
It's hard for me to, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say, it's hard for me to really convince furniture workers that I'm trying to organize them.
I tell you
Yeah,
another
there's
thing.
another remedy we're trying to use, we got a $200,000 lawsuit filed in federal court against the whole business community of about 4 counties up around Columbus, that's gonna be a real interesting.
Yeah, another thing that helping organize, and that part of the state particularly is, unions that are organized.
Done ask them for money, plus the
Police and
contract,
represent
except
their,
for
I mean,
the
their
plan.
members.
We get the policemen organized, we're gonna solve a lot of these problems.
Let's
see, can we get a motion or something here, or whatever you wanna do?
I was fixing to ask you, do you think, I think it's a good idea that the board write these individual letters. But do you think if you call Zonrich on the phone and, if he thought it'd be a good idea, you could make a appearance at that meeting?
I believe that would be better than the letters, frankly, if the letters is needed, then it should be written.
Yeah, well, might be a good idea to call him, talk to
That's
him,
what-
and if it looks like we need some support from the board, maybe at that point to write the letter. What do you think, Steve?
See, let's hit them with them letters.
Hit 'em anyhow?
I think your letters.
Do it anyway. Do it
And
anyway.
then your call to Nick,
Right.
because your letters would convince.
You'd have something to
people
show
on the
Abel.
board that it wasn't Nick Zonrich. Nick
Right.
Zonrich has always got opposing meetings and trying to get them open, opposing here, do something here.
Mhm.
I think your letters, with along with call to
Yeah,
call,
right.
explaining what took place here. I think your letters, your simple letters, would carry a lot more weight than that board.
You'd have something to write.
President better than I have. I mean, each of you goes on and president.
Well, in our case, it's our secretary treasurer, Smith, our president serves on the AFL-CIO council, and secretary treasurer on IUD.
Well, I still think we need, some kind of a motion, in the form of not necessarily endorsing what I've done up to this point, but in terms of authorizing me to continue in our efforts to develop an organizing.
I'd like to, offer a motion to that effect, that this board go on record supporting what you have already done, and, authorizing you to do everything within your power to see that we get this program set up in
I'll
Mississippi.
certainly accept that kind of a motion.
I'll second.
Yeah, well, that's a good motion, that'll handle the whole situation. We having a discussion on the matter? I think it ought to be clearly understood, and I'm sure I speak the sentiments of the whole board, that in doing this, that we are not out to get Bob Stones, anybody else in the organizing department, correct?
Right.
I'd be glad to have them come to Tupelo and help.
We'll be glad to have them, okay. Any more discussion on that motion now? That'll cover the whole situation. Not all in favor of the motion?
I'm over at Pontotoc by myself, I've got the whole town
You
on
need
me over
help,
there.
I know.
We was in there a few years ago by ourselves.
We cracked West Point, and now they inviting the president of the state AFL-CIO up to address the Rotary clubs. I'm looking forward to getting that call from Tupelo one of these days.
Well, Claude, I never told you this, but, after we got the big yank to buy out that old closed plant, the mayor of the town got up in a public meeting of businessmen and told them they could thank the amalgamated clothing works, me personally, that plant being there.
Well, we're making progress, Steve.
So
Can
we
we
have
vote?
made a little progress.
Can we vote on the motion?
Well, before you vote on the motion,
Would you believe that? Got hard.
Maybe we're making a little progress. Joe got invited over to Tupelo High School to make a speech to the class the other day, and he went and did so. Maybe that's a step in the right direction.
That's
The
a lot of
high
progress
school
in
and
Tupelo.
the voc-technical class, they called me up and asked me, could I come? And, I understand that was the first union man that ever spoke in that high school.
We're making more progress than I do. Can we vote on that motion? I wanna step out there and see if the man from Marcia's made it here yet.
Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not all opposed? Motion carried and so ordered.
Correctly, that everybody pledged to send their letter.
You're gonna all write Abel and copies to Nick or Zonerick, and I'm gonna call Nick, and then we're gonna see if I need to go down. We're gonna just do what we can. Let me step out here and
Since
see
my
if
president's
Jim's
on that board, I'm also
Well,
gonna send him a
most
copy
all
of
of
that
the
letter.
presidents, I think you're gonna find the presidents of all your unions, quite everybody that's represented here. Maybe longshoremen wouldn't have, but, let me.
Checkout time. We're finished on checkout time, won't we?
We're supposed to finish at 12, surely it ain't 12, is it?
I don't know.
Checkout time, I don't know, I didn't. I mean, I don't know checkout time. It'll be on.
1 or 2 o'clock.
I thought you was gonna leave.
I just checked out, I'm ready, I just got.
What is the checkout time?
I think it's 2 o'clock. I
Oh,
don't
well,
know.
that ain't no problem.
I think it is now.
As long as we finish, before checkout time, I ain't gonna worry about who we go.
Freezing to death.
Robert, when you gonna leave?
Tom, you know your old buddy, the consumers is meeting in town today too. Consumers Association was having their meeting the other day.
That's just a board.
That's changing
Yeah.
weather, huh? There's this water up here, something in this water, you know? This water has
Hello, boy.
Hard in that place. What's going on?
It's gonna be there tonight, so.
Yeah, it's, I'm telling you, it's gonna be that. Before we ever go.
She went to the, she don't make them all, she went to the last one.
What's that, you can't go to Texas, you gotta stay in Texas. We're gonna have a big convention, you know, we keep growing like we have. Of course, we don't
Well,
know
you
how
meet
to-
him, I'm just different.
Oh, you know. We done got you.
I retired so bad, did you know that?
Some people, we don't let them retire. Ooh, it's gonna be a meeting.
Or get some of these young, energetic fellas that say, well, go through all.
You know, that retired from the grade chairman.
I'm trying to, but she said they didn't accept it.
We got a lot of people like that, we're gonna start.
She wants somebody there to talk hard to them people that gets out of line, I know what she wants.
Some of them don't wanna pay us for the dues.
You have to get the money out of some of them before you let them help somebody. It's just out that way. No, she put it this thing at the top, muddle, and organized. This was really.
What I was bringing up about organized,
I know what you mean.
international's not representing the people, it's just retail chairman,
Yeah.
brokers, every one of them's left, and, they got about 2 in there, all good people, and one comes to here somewhere, who can we get to get some of their work?
Well, we get accused by a lot of unions of creating problems for them by having our people service as regular as they do, but I swear, we can't keep us together harder that way. We got people in there every week, as you know, and all our local. Every local union we got sees representatives every week, sometimes twice a week. And then we still can't keep up with it. The edict comes about every 6 months, I don't know how to make it.
These people are spreading rumors, I'm just paying my union dues and that's it.
I really don't.
Earlier, I invited Mr. Jim Blunt to come over and speak to you briefly this morning, meet all of you, give you an opportunity to ask him some questions. I think all of you are familiar with the situation that we've had here in the state in terms of the OSSA situation. You're all aware of the fact that we was successful in helping kill a bill that would have took the policing of this act and put it in the hands of the state. So I'm not going to belabor that point and get into all of the ramifications of it. The end result of all this has simply been this, that the federal government has opened up an office in Jackson, Mississippi. Mr. Jim Blunt is in charge of that office. Contrary to some of the correspondence you received from us, we, told you several things in the past, but we're happy they do have an office in Mississippi, that he does have a staff working for him under his direction here in the state, that if you have a problem in terms of safety in your workplace, what have you, Mr. Blunt is the man that you return to at this particular time. Mr. Blunt, we're happy to have you here with us this morning. We'd like to give an opportunity to have a few words to say. This is the state executive board, state AFL-CIO.
Gentlemen,
The ones that could get here.
yes. I imagine the weather did hold some of the northern part of the state back. Well, as Mr. Ramsey said, we did open this office up in September of this year, since the state had to back out of the agreement they had with us. They found it to be unconstitutional, they said. So the state no longer has any authority to enforce any federal, state, any federal safety or health law in Mississippi. If you find them attempting to do that, please let me know. Dr. Cobb, who is the state director of the state medical department, is my liaison with the governor's office. Dick Whitehead is out of business. I don't know if you knew that. They are providing some free consulting service to people on request. Weigh whatever information you might receive from that source, because it's impossible for someone that's not involved in the policing of the law to stay abreast of what's going on. Changes occur frequently. I had to take some action about 3 weeks ago to stop the state from telling MEC that the law did not affect any business that had fewer than 25 employees. I couldn't believe that they were that naive to go on record and say before a state group of people that the feds only covered 10% of the employees in the state. See how misleading that might have been. The law pertains to every business that has one or more employees. One or more. And almost every business affects commerce. So you might say that we stick our nose into nearly everything that's going on. We've done about 140 inspections since September. And I did this with 2 men. I had 3 since November. And then picked up, had 5 then in 1st of December, and now I have 10. 10 inspectors, one of them is a woman. So, going to be probably, she said, my best inspector. So we are out here. We spent the holidays dividing the state up and dividing the city up. Each inspector will have a certain geographical section of the city and a certain number of counties in the state. This inspector will be responsible for all activities in those counties. And as soon as we, along about the 1st of February, I'll let Mr. Ramsey know, and however you want to disseminate the information as to what inspectors in that area. They'll still work out of this office. They're not going to live in that area. They will, all of them except 3 are out-of-state people. I'm a Mississippian, and a lot of my inspectors are Mississippians. And, I shouldn't say a lot. 3 of them are Mississippi. I picked up 3 people from the state. I thought, well, they're 3 best people. C.D. Pritchard, Dennis Butler, and Don Harvey. Harvey is a hygienist. So I have 2 hygienists on the staff. 1 man that's full-time in construction. For those of you that may be involved in that at any time. 1 man will do nothing but float throughout the state, doing nothing but all construction work. Doesn't mean I can't back him up with the other men. But he will be 100% in construction. I'm going to do it this way because we found it successful in the 2 years I was area director in Florida, that if you only have to read 1 book, you can know more about what's in that book than you can read a half a dozen books. So So, this man will stay with the construction and the others will stay with general industry. The two hygienists will float the state, but then the others will have certain territories to work in. This little book tells you something about OSHA. You might need to know some of the things that we've found so far. We've only responded to 2 union complaints. I thought I had a couple coming in. They had touched base with me, and somehow or another they did not. I gave them a form, an OSHA 7, which is a complaint form, and they never sent it in to me. They came in and talked about it. I assume they got the problem straightened out with their managers, because I never heard any more about it. That's, I think, one of the better ways of doing the business. If the company has a safety committee, let that committee recommend it to management that they correct this problem. If management refuses, come to us. But if you can use employees through a safety committee, think of the morale factor with the employees, and think of the goodwill factor with the company. We had anybody from Meridian? We had a problem over in Meridian, which was not any of our business, and somebody submitted one to us, but we did investigate. It was the Atomic Energy Commission's problem, or control, I should say, not ours. So let me touch briefly on that. If there's another federal law that governs a situation, then it takes precedent over OSHA. For instance, we don't interfere with the FAA's investigation of aircraft accidents. However, we could if we had a complaint. We don't interfere with the Department of Transportation's investigation of motor freight, truck lines, and things like that, accidents, cab, taxis, buses. We don't interfere with the Atomic Energy Commission. However, we do have coverage in that area. The Act pertains to every working place. Says that there's another federal regulation governing it, and they will continue. We hope that during Mr. Nixon's administration that we will have a super agency for safety. There's certain bills in Congress on this right now that may be acted on this year. That Bureau of Mines, the FAA, Department of Transportation, everything pertaining to safety and health of the American people will come under one agency. That's something you might think about in the future.
Well, at least you can advise them what agency has got to be with jurisdiction. They have a problem, right?
Yes. We have it set up now where the Department of Health is furnishing us a copy of every death certificate on every employee in the state. So they're not going to be able to hide the bodies. We're going to know about it. It's about 170, and I found 3 different agencies receive information on fatals, yet none of the 3 agreed as to how many are killed every year in the workplace. Best I can come up with is an estimate of around 170 a year. We will investigate every one of these where we think there's been a standard violated. Every one of them. If the company reports it to us within the 48-hour period, we will get a man there before the facts are told. It's like, if I find out about it 30 days later, because I got a copy of the death certificate, then we will issue a penalty in the amount of $200 for failure to report it to us. We would like, go back to how we touch on your business. The best way to handle it is through any working conditions that's unsafe or unhealthy, through that safety committee. The job steward could even bring it up if they don't have a safety committee. Or bring it up to the president of the union, who would in turn bring it up to you gentlemen, or advise the presidents of the unions to file a complaint direct with us. All he has to do is to call me, or write me a letter. If he writes a letter, I'll act on the letter immediately. If he calls, I will send him a self-addressed envelope with a complaint form in it, and I need the signature on the complaint. If it's an imminent danger, we will respond immediately. That is, you think somebody's going to be killed in the next couple of minutes or hours. If it's not corrected, then we will go immediately and respond, if I have somebody available. So that's, and well, so far we have, because we're not having that many complaints. We're not even averaging 1 complaint a week right now. Well, now that I have more people, yes. Okay, we're not just responding to complaints and fatals. We're scheduling general inspections. One of the big targets right now is trenching. And we've done about 40 trenching inspections out of the 125 or 30 inspections we've done. And we found about half of them in compliance with the law. But it's a $1,000 penalty every time we find a man in a hole more than 6 feet deep. Live, that is. And, and it's not shored up or sloped. And I think I'm gonna have to get a bodyguard, because they're really after me in this Jackson area. I've had one politician to try to lean on me, and I told Mr. Ramsey this story, and I want to tell it to you, because this is my position. I'm a Mississippian. I was born and raised here. I come back here after 19 years of being away, and I come back to stay. But I don't owe allegiance to anyone except my father and mother, and my wife, the Secretary of Labor. Now, we cited this trenching company, and he went to his buddy, who's a local representative, and he came in my office. I didn't know who the guy was. I didn't know he was a politician. I know Senator Eastman, but I don't even know Stennis. But I've known Eastman for years. He's a relative of the company, and his family and all. But I don't really know any of the local politicians. Guy come in, he said, "What's this? What have you done issuing a citation of my friend here? What are you doing inspecting his job?" "What do you mean, what am I doing? Have I inspected you?" "Well, no." "Well, what position do you play in it?" "Well, he's my client." So I assume he's a lawyer. And I let him talk on. He tells me the story. And he says, "Well, I understand you're from Mississippi." That's right. He said, "Well, that's not the way we got to do business here." And I said, "Just a minute now, what damn business is it of yours? Who are you?" He said, "Well, I'm an engineer consulting firm here, and I don't like that. I want to know what went on." I just closed the file, and I said, "You're not entitled to anything in this file. That's between this man over here and me. You're welcome to leave." And I invited him to leave. And that's my position. None of his business.
Let me interrupt you here, Mr. Blunt. Just make a simple statement. You have just justified our position on stopping passage of legislation for the state to take over policing of Washington. This is exactly the kind of damn thing that we had in mind. We think we'll all be better off with you running the show. You just proved that our work was worthwhile right then for that state.
You should have told this joker to go on and hop on the snuff filter.
Well, I enjoy my work, and I've got a reputation nationwide of being firm, not hard-nosed, but the sugar industry, the citrus growers in Florida tried to get me out of there. The state tried to get me out because I was a little hard-nosed. They even wrote a letter. They even wrote a letter to Assistant Secretary Gentler, George Gentler, who was the first Assistant Secretary, and asked him to get me out of Florida. And so he called him up and said, "Why?" They said, "Well, because he's too hard-nosed." He said, "Hell, he's the very man I want down there then." So then George told me about it. But anyway, I've gone to MMA's Mississippi Manufacturers Association. They're for us. They're convinced that we're doing it fair. They don't like the law. Let me clarify that. They were honest enough to tell me they don't like the law. But if they're going to have a law, they'd rather I would be doing it than the state, or I should say the feds, which makes sense because this company, GE's got a plant in Jackson, they got one in Arkansas, and one in New Jersey. They got to comply with 3 laws that way. They'd rather have a federal law. That's one of these. Now, I don't want to knock the state, but let's say what happened. In South Carolina now has been operating for a year. We've made an audit of South Carolina. It might be your advantage to contact your counterpart in South Carolina and find out what this report had in it. It's a public document. You can buy it for a few pennies from Washington if you want to by writing the Assistant Secretary of Labor for Safety and Health. But your counterpart, or I should say the President of the Union in South Carolina, could get it for you, sure. Your advantage to read that. Every employer that's been inspected in South Carolina is very happy. It's state system. And that's as much as I'll say about it. But if the state does take over, I will still maintain an office for 3 years. I will monitor the state program. Anytime that you're not happy with the state program, you send a complaint to me and I investigate it. That is a complaint against the way they're operating. That's in the law. That's what we're doing. If at any one time the secretary doesn't believe the state is doing it in accordance with the law, we will revoke it. And I might say that a letter's already gone to the governor of South Carolina telling him that they're going to revoke that plan if they don't shape up. Already gone, the state of Tennessee's already been put on notice. So these are, we're hard and firm about the thing. Now there's some advantages. If the state could run a good program, I discussed this at length with Dr. Cobb, I talked to a state senator about it, and I talked to MMA and MEC about it. I'll tell you the same thing. If the state takes over, they get 50% federal funds to do the job. You keep all the fines. I mean, you can't lose a deal like that if they want to take over. And I don't.
That ain't provided.
Sir?
You can't do that ain't provided.
Well, no. Let's say that they take over, it would be as good as the federal. Don't misunderstand that. Now, if the state took over and run a plan exactly like we're running it, and they're going to do it for 3 years, I can promise you that, then it would be the state's advantage to have it. But it would be the industry's advantage for a state not to have it. I hope, without taking too much of your time, I've answered some questions in your mind. Now, how about just shooting questions to me?
All right, let's do it this way. We've got several people, of course, Kelly and Turner, I guess have had to leave. They have a meeting at 3. I know, Bob, that you've got a meeting that you're running late for. Let's see if there's anybody else got a question that's kind of in a hurry. Let's feel it. Give them an opportunity first. Is that okay with everyone? Since Kelly and Turner have left, we'll come to Bob. Bob, you...
Yeah, Mr. Blunt, how do you go about selecting an industry to make an unannounced inspection? I mean, when I say an unannounced or unrequested inspection...
It's not a complaint or a fatal.
Right.
We're scheduling. Okay, we've spent the holidays with no inspections were made during the holidays. All my people in the office get back to where we should have been in the beginning, but I was told to come here and start inspecting, so I did. We have a list of 310,000 businesses in Mississippi. I didn't know there were that many. 310,000 businesses. Broken down by county and by the classification of that business. On another sheet over here, I have a list of all the inspections that the Alabama office ever made here and that we've made since September. Okay, now some counties we haven't even been here, I found out. So I spent all last Saturday going over that thing and a good part of Monday of this week. We're going to do one of every type business in every county, whether we have a complaint or a fatal or not. Then Hines County naturally has more businesses than Jefferson County, let's say. Well, we're going to do a fair proportionate share of businesses in every county. If the county's got 200 businesses in it, we're going to do a certain percentage of that 200. If it's got 10,000 businesses like Hines has, we're going to do the same percentages of the businesses at Jackson. So I've got to, because General Accounting Office has been asked by Senator Williams from New Jersey, who's one of the co-authors of the law, to audit our performance at the end of the 3 years, and they're now getting ready to do it. And they're going to come in, I already know what they're looking for. That's one of the things they're going to look for. Are you doing a fair, proportionate share of all coverage of all employees?
What limitations are there on unions' right to participate in an unrequested inspection?
All right, you have both. You're emphasizing unrequested. We never let anybody know we're coming. Even if you make a complaint to me, I'm not going to tell you I'm going down there. I'll tell you we'll look at this complaint and determine whether it's valid or not. But you'll never know when we're going in. Nobody will. It's $10,000 penalty against me if I let you know I'm coming down to that plant after you complain about it.
Oh, well, maybe I should rephrase my question.
No, I know what. I'm going to answer this two-part question. Okay, Once we arrive, and is anybody here from this, old Mississippi Products, what's it called?
That's
over
it,
there?
MPI,
Oh, yeah?
that's
Okay.
who he represents.
All right, if you happen to be on the site when we get there, you can go with us, if you're the president of the union and you work there. Otherwise, you have no business going. Because we're concerned with the working conditions of these employees that work there at that time. Okay. They can, today if they want to, have a meeting and say, okay, we're going to have you standing by all the time out there in case they ever come, and you're going to be our representative. Fine. You identify yourself as their representative, and you go with us as the employee rep, if you want to. But we're not going to hold up an inspection anywhere for the purpose of somebody getting there. We can't do it. If I were to hold up this inspection for an hour until you can get there, the company, hey, get out there and get building goggles on, hard hats and fire extinguishers, things like that. We want to know what's going on at that time. Yeah. That's why it's not enough. Now, if you were there, though, and you say, okay, I'm the president of the union, I'd like to go with you, fine, come on, go.
If I file a complaint in behalf as an employee representative for an inspection, would that change
No.
the position?
The complainant doesn't necessarily have to go with us. You've already told us what's wrong, we're gonna go in and verify it.
Okay, you made an inspection since you brought it up, of this facility, recently. And I think maybe the union president who was, on the site at the time, maybe Q was the inspector. And there were a number of hazards pointed out by the inspector. Now, what happens if the company doesn't, take, the necessary steps to correct the hazard? And what length of time do they have to correct it?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I should have explained all that to you. I thought maybe you were aware of this particular case. All right, one of the things, we mail out the citation. In this case, there are about 20 violations, I think, I don't recall exactly, against the company. We gave them 30 days to correct it because the holiday is involved. Normally, we only give 15 working days. And we gave them 30 calendar days, which almost gave them 15 working days. They've asked for a conference with me Monday to discuss an extension of that. Now, normally, we go back on that abatement date for a follow-up. If they've not corrected it, then it's going to be at least $100 a day, or if the penalty was $200, it's going to be $200 a day for every violation until they do correct it. And I'll give them another week.
That's $100 per day per violation?
Per violation, as a minimum. But the violation may have been a $500 or $200, then it'll be $500 for that particular violation. Not all of them, but just those ones. It can run up then as high as $4,000 or $5,000 a day. Now that gets kind of steep, and I'll only give them 7 days till I get a hold of the U.S. Marshal and we go down and close them up. Now, that's how serious we are about it. But let's go back, let's follow this all the way through. All right, they're going to come in and say, well, I don't have enough time to order this guard for this saw. Or I've ordered respirators for these people painting here, and they can't be delivered till March. That's a justifiable excuse for extending it until March. But if you, the employee or their representative, don't agree with that, then you have the right to contest it. All you do is write me a letter, say, I don't agree with extending it for 30 days, or extending it for 1 day even. Then, I'll send it to the review commission, they appoint a federal judge, comes into Jackson, and we hear your reasons why you don't want it extended. You don't need a lawyer to do that, you do it. Chances are, if you can give me a good rebuttal, that I will not even extend it. Because we're pretty rough on those extensions.
Okay, I think maybe you already answered this question when you gave the report on the politician who you told wasn't running the business in the West to leave, but,
that was a nice way, that wasn't really what I said.
Okay. In the course of an inspection, well, after completing an inspection, say that there were no union representatives who participated in the...
An employee walked around with us.
Right. Okay, would it be possible for the union representative to get a copy of the citations that you made?
Not from us, but it's required to be posted. We send it back by certified mail, telling them that they must post that citation. Then you can go there and look at it, or an employee can get you a copy of it if you want to see it. But we don't make it a habit of sending it back to you unless you was the person that sent the complaint. Now, if you sent the complaint, I'll automatically send you a copy of the citation issue. But just to send it to the president of a local, no, that's not authorized. But that has to be posted, so you go there and look at it. Or ask one of the employees to let you know what was on it. Or come in and talk to me about it if you have some reason why you want to know more about it. Give me a call. I give it to you on the phone, or you can come by and talk to me. But this is public information. You're entitled to it.
One final question. How do you go about, what do you use for a standard to determine what degree of an area is an impact area? What I'm talking about. I can readily think of some plants here in Jackson where employees are not required to wear safety goggles. But in my opinion, as a lay opinion, the impact area in these plants are much higher than the impact area in some areas of the OBMPI plant. How do you go about determining?
If there's danger of an eye injury, they're required to wear eye protection to the standards. Now, I don't mean, you could poke yourself, the secretary could with a pencil, I guess. But if there's danger of flying particles to other workers or to the person operating this machine.
Probably one good thing about that, I mean, if you've ever had an eye injury in the past, you'd have a
greater fear than others. Yeah. Let me go a little bit further back on your case now, on the MPI. We're going to make a follow-up sometime in January of that, whatever the date was, I don't remember offhand, say the 20th. Okay, tell these people down there now, the job stewards and the local president, whoever it might be, that if they know of additional hazards that we didn't find when we were there because this particular operation wasn't in use that day, let my man know during the follow-up. When he comes in, we're going to have a walk-around representative again. Tell him, says, here's a list now. Give him the list. Here's a list of things I'd like for you to look at now. If we'd have had that list in the beginning, it'd be better. And that's one of the reasons I asked Mr. Ramsey for this meeting. Every job steward in every plant in Mississippi should now have him a list of unsafe conditions that he doesn't think are serious enough to report in a complaint, but he would like to point out to the officer when he gets there. And when my compliance officer walks in, make himself known, we will and give him that list. We would prefer, as I said, the employee representative on a safety council is our number one choice for the walk-around rep. Because that lets all the employees know that, hey, that's one of us doing that. That's not the union. They're in the company's pocket. You hear all this crap. This is one of us. Or if we don't have one of us, then we would tell the manager, we're going to stop and talk to a man running that machine down there. We're going to stop and talk to that painter. We're going to stop and talk to this carpenter over here. We're going to talk to him private. And if you fire him or take any action against him in the next 6 months because you think he told us something, we're going to take you to federal court and make you reinstate him with back pay. I got a case right now in Greenwood. Anybody from Greenwood? I'm going to Greenwood Wednesday. Which, let me mention this while I'm here. Okay, next week I have to be in Atlanta. But the following week, the 14th, I'm giving 4 speeches somewhere in the state. I'm talking in Vicksburg on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm giving 2 speeches in Greenwood. On the 16th, I'm in Oxford, and on the 17th, I'll be in Tupelo. Hope I get back home Friday. So this is a typical week of what I'm doing. The office pretty much runs itself now.
Whereabouts will you be in these areas? We got people from some of these places here. Will it be a public meeting?
Yeah. No, it's each case being sponsored by somebody. I don't have that down. I just have the dates and times, but my office can tell you exactly where it'll be. I might misinform you, so but I got the time, and one of them in Greenwood is 2 p.m. and one is 6 p.m. I don't even have the time in Oxford or Tupelo. But write down my office phone number while you're thinking of it. I'll give you some cards. 956-4911. And, you can,
That
from
name
out,
is Jim Blunt, B-L-O-U-N-T.
and you can get us on the government switchboard also, which is, 948-7821. 948-7821. And we're on extension 771.
Both of those numbers again, please.
The first one was 956-4911.
That's the direct.
That's a direct line into our office.
4911.
Yes, sir. And the government switchboard, we have 3 or 4 extensions on that. It's 948-7821 and extension 771. That's a rotary. You're probably aware also that there is a toll-free number you can call a telecorder in Atlanta anytime, day or night, and that message would be relayed back to us. I don't have one here. No office does. But
they've got that.
So you got that? That's
Fire
a-
out.
yeah, okay.
That's that old toll-free number.
Yeah.
that we mail.
So in case you're out of town and you don't want to spend the money to make a long-distance call that toll-free number and ask me to call you back. And they'll relay it, and then I'll call you back. I have watch lines anywhere in the state.
Anybody else got a question?
You mentioned Meridian on an inspection or something. I'm not too interested in that, but probably, you said you've come into the States in September.
Yes.
We had a case, one of the manufacturing plants, which I'm aware of through the Central Labor Union, that, and you probably wasn't involved, but they had all kind of hazardous conditions. About Atlas Group, you probably heard about this. And when the inspector, maybe a day or so before the inspector come, everything was perfect. And this guy that's representing the union, he says, I know that they knew he was coming, so.
This is when Dick Whitehead was going around with this situation. The reason I asked Mr. Blunt over here, I want everybody to clearly understand what the situation is. The State Department of Health no longer has any responsibility in this area. I mean, I want everybody to know about it. This is the man that's in charge.
They're not even allowed in that section of my office. In the office where that work goes on, Dick Whitehead's not even welcome in there. No one. There's myself and 2 girls and 1 man are allowed in that office. That's where the citations are typed up, where the complaints are processed, and each one of the girls are bonded, and one of them is a notary. So I'm pretty mean about those things. But let me, if you triggered something else there. If you do send me a complaint, now I'm not going to say you would do that, but we have people in Florida that go around, they send us a complaint, and go around telling everybody, the feds are coming tomorrow, I done made a complaint, I'm going to get the feds on your butt because you didn't straighten up, bragging about it. Well, that triggered the fact is I could have issued a action against him for a $10,000 penalty for giving out advance notice.
But he probably
But I'd have a hard
caused
time
that company
proving
to clean things up.
He did, but that's not how, we want to know how it is every day when you're working. Yes.
Rather than a question, I have a statement probably, in relation to what you said a while ago, that you having maybe about 1 complaint a week. Now, I know, the plants that are organized in the state of Mississippi, we have quite a bit of literature and stuff coming in all the time about the laws and this sort of thing. But I'm an organizer, and I'm getting out working with these plants that's not organized. And I find some conditions in some of these plants that's, man, it's just pitiful. One lady last week tells me that she's running a machine that the radiation will light up a fluorescent light bulb several feet from her machine.
That's not a fact.
Well, I don't know.
I'm qualified in radioisotope field, and that's not a fact.
I don't know.
Now here's what you should do with that. If you're attempting to organize a place, I can't accept a complaint from you, but tell any of the employees, says, hey, contact Asha. Now nobody will know you did it, because I won't even have her name. If they say they don't want their name revealed, then I'll type up the complaint in my office, eliminating any information, such as the signature or where this person works. I have to give the company a copy of that complaint, but I'll eliminate anything that'll tie into this person, because they need to know if we're there due to the complaint. So tell them, when you see a plant like that, it's that raunchy. Boy, I can't accept it from you, but you can certainly write it up and give it to an employee and let them send it in.
But this thing you mentioned that they have to file and fill out this form and sign, this is what scares those non-union people off. They will not do it.
Well, all you gotta do is tell them about the protection they have. Listen, if I was an employee in a non-union shop, I'd be sending me a complaint in every month, because that's guaranteeing me a job for life. They can't ever get rid of you.
They don't believe it. They don't believe it. They don't know that.
Well, I can give you the names of some of them that, well, one up here in Barrentine plant we've already put back to work. She was trying to organize the plant, and they fired her. Yeah, and they had the goods on her to fire, but they didn't fire her for that reason. They fired her for passing out literature during working hours. And, so anyway, she's sharp enough,
We know something about how that one got fired.
But, I spent at least 16 hours of my people's time already on that.
Well, I worked at AFL-CIO Appalachian Council, funded by over Washington. And, I called one of these plants, they set up a training program. And I've had 2 or 3 plants in Mississippi just to tell me, no, we don't want you to the federal building, you're gonna bring our shit down. And, I have no way of getting OSHA except to tell the president of the local or the local union in, maybe they need OSHA in there, you ought to get them in.
Mr. Blunt?
You had a question back there, didn't you? Did you still got it?
I want to ask you, do your office have anything to do with, unhealthy pollution? In other words, if a plant, discharges, some sort of a gas or something that would cause sickness, would it have any?
If the pollution is detrimental to the health of an employee, it's our business. If it affects the public, then it's EPA's business. We can always draw that line. If I find out about pollution that's not my business, I have to report it. We have a presidential executive order requiring us to report any violation of another federal law we find. And yesterday I pulled up to the American gas station right out here by the hospital, and they were posting an 8-cent increase on it. I went in, picked up the payphone, called Internal Revenue, identified myself, and said they just posted an 8-cent increase on it. He says, fine, I'll be up there and give them a $2,500 fine.
What American station was it? I don't want to stop there.
One right up here by the hospital. I was in the hospital overnight, so that's for some tests or something.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned you have one industrial hygienist in your office?
I have 2.
2. All right, if you have an inspection, not a complaint, just your routine selection, and you determine, or this inspector determines that they need this industrial hygienist, how long would it be before he would be in there?
Right now, we can respond within 5 days to any health complaint, and I hope to always be able to do that. The more inspectors I have, the longer that time is going to be, though, because see, when an inspector goes into a place like Presto, we've already been into Presto. Now, he found at least 20 hours work for the hygienist that he couldn't test himself. He refers it to the hygienist. Now, the hygienist won't schedule it. I think that's the only backlog case he's got right now.
Well, you've got one in
Imagine
Tupelo.
10 inspectors would be generating that much, and it'd take him longer to get around to them.
They made an inspection in a day-bright operation in Tupelo in December. And when the inspector left, he informed the company official that there'd be an industrial hygienist in there.
He's already been here. I'm familiar with it. So is the manager of Daybright already been in the office, and he's correcting all of those problems with the oven, drying paint spray rooms, or whatever it was, I believe. I think that's what the problem was.
Yeah. Gas fumes coming out of those ovens. When did the industrial hygienist go in there?
I don't know, around the 1st of December sometime. That's Charlie Crow. What's the manager's name?
Thurkill.
Yeah, he's already.
Now, the industrial hygienist hadn't been in there, had he?
I'm pretty sure he has.
We had the regular inspection in December.
Yeah.
And I talked to, I'm a business manager for that local union there, and I talked to the plant manager the 20th of December, and the industrial hygienist hadn't been in there at that time.
If he hasn't, whether he has or not,
Yeah.
is immaterial. If your people think that there is still a problem in there, drop me a note, call me, or send me a complaint, either one. Since we've already been in, I don't have to have another complaint to go back. Hasn't been corrected. Let me get back to your comment on the health test. I'm gonna get more and more into the health for this reason. We know that about 16 to 17,000 people die every year from safety problems, accidents, they say. I don't agree, but that's what they call it. But we also know that that's only a drop in the bucket, 16,000. We now know 100,000 a year die from a health problems on the job. We're doing an in-depth study. Anybody from Yazoo City, Mississippi Chemical, they know that I'm doing this, so I can tell you. We're doing an in-depth study into Mississippi Chemical going back to 5 years. We're going to find out every employee that's left there, why he left, and has he died at this time. I've already know of 5 that have died in the past 3 months. Well, we will do it with any plant, but I've selected this one first because, well, a lot of reasons, but,
Well, we got, I got a particular reason for this, and I wish the
Which plant is
school
that?
over here. Of course, it comes for the same, it's same company. We got a plant in Pascagoula and Yazoo City, same operator.
we got one up near Chico.
No, I don't believe so.
They've got some type of chemical operation down at,
Got a sign on Mississippi Chemical branch. of
Hamilton,
Mississippi Chemical.
Mississippi.
Is that,
Hamilton.
is that part
That's,
of?
I don't know the name of it.
That's where McGee is now.
This is Owen Cupper's outfit we're talking about now.
Yeah.
They got plants in Yazoo City and Pascagoula, and they've built one over in Louisiana not long ago.
I know Owen Cooper.
Yeah. Go ahead, I don't want to interrupt you.
He tried to get my father to run. They used to live in Yazoo County before he retired. And he tried to get him to run for sheriff one time. And my father told me flatly, he says, hell no. He said, I might be elected. And so if I'm elected, I'd have to lock up all my friends, and bootleggers and gamblers. And I almost took the job as director of the Highway Patrol in Mississippi when Birdsong retired. I was safety director of Occupied Berlin at the time in Europe. And I came back here, Paul Johnson Jr. had been a member, friends of the family for a while, wanted me to take that job. And I damn near took it. I come within that much of taking it, really. And I found out what the salary was.
You almost lost your mind.
Yeah. So anyway, my father told me, he said, I knew you weren't going to take it. And I said, why? He said, because I think you're basically honest.
Well, do we have any other questions?
Yes.
I'm actually a representative of Boilermakers out of the West Point plant.
Here in
West
Ramada.
Point plant. Being this is a government program, I've asked this question of other people now, and I'll tell you beforehand. Being this is a government program, why is there so many different rulings on safety equipment? And I'll give you an example. The West Point plant, Babcock and Wilcox Company does the same thing that quite a few of their other plants do in different states, and I can name the states for you if you want to. But in West Point, Mississippi, they say every walking person inside that plant has to wear a hard hat. Even if he's in a crane, 35 foot from any working, and got 3/8 inch steel plate over his head and cab all around him and everything else, he's still got to wear this hard hat and everything.
Who says that?
The company. The company says they have to do this to comply with us.
That's not so.
Well, I didn't knew it wasn't, but in Barberton, Ohio, they don't wear them. In Brunswick, Georgia, they might wear them. In Paris, Texas, they might not wear them. And everybody's got such a different opinion of actually what they're doing. To clear it up, I know what they're doing. they say we'll put hard hats on everybody and safety glasses, regardless of whether they need them or not. And if OSHA comes in, they'll say, look what they've already done, and they'll go easy on them.
And as you're well aware, companies can make their own rules, and we encourage them to make their rules and enforce them, and we'll back them up. But when you run across a place like that, they've made a blanket rule, everybody wear hard hats. You might like to point out to the management that it's not required by OSHA, and suggest that you'll write a letter for them to our office for clarification, and that'll get them off the kick. We don't think you need hard hats out here in highway construction. You don't need it at all. Yet in every highway construction job, you'll see a man wearing a hard hat. You might in bridge building, but in normal highway, you don't need a hard hat. Hell, what do you need it for? You need a straw hat in the summertime, but not a hard hat.
On these jobs, like he was talking about a while ago, where the law requires you to wear the safety glasses. If a man has to wear prescription glasses, is the employer required to furnish those prescription glasses?
Okay, the law doesn't
We've been
require-
trying to get this clarified for 3 months now, so I'm putting it to you blank.
The law doesn't require anything. So let me start with that. The standards say that this is what you will come up to. You'll meet these standards. Failure to do so, you're going to be penalized, issue a citation. How about reading in 1910 standards there on that particular paragraph on personal protective equipment, shoes, hard hats, gloves, glasses. It states that employees will be furnished, okay? If you want to tell the employee, I'll buy your first pair and then you buy all replacements, that's good management. Or if the company says, all right, I'll furnish you safety shoes, but when you leave work, you got to take them off and leave them here. But if you'd rather wear them home, then I'll get them for you wholesale. A lot of good ways to do it. The glasses, he doesn't have to buy the man prescription glasses, but he would have to furnish him protection over those prescription glasses. He'd have to furnish, a hardened goggle to go over it, or a face shield or something. So probably the company would rather pay for the prescription glasses.
I don't know.
Well, we try to avoid getting into those. We would issue a citation if the man does not have eye protection and he's in eye hazard area.
Is there an OSHA
Yeah, but the
regulation?
question I'm asking, can they force him to put on a pair of old plain glasses or something that's...
Okay. If he needs corrected vision, if he's got a doctor's certificate to that effect, an ophthalmologist or somebody like that.
That's been a court ruling that on this part of the act in that just punish them is not enough, that they have to make them wear them.
They have to have a sign indicating that this is an eye hazard area and you will wear eye protection to protect them from us. We go in and they have this ruling and they've given you a letter already one time saying you'll wear them, and we got there and you weren't wearing them, we won't issue a citation to the company. Because the company's demonstrated to us their good faith to try to get you to wear them. Then the company can fire you if they want to, and we'll go to court to back them up. Well, let me touch one bit on equipment, since you guys mentioned it. You'll see stores people making a lot of money off of OSHA today. We've assessed around $5 million in penalties worldwide, nationwide, since we've been in business. But there's been probably $50 million made off of suppliers using the OSHA name. And you'll see this yellow square extension cord, 100-foot cord. It says, get your OSHA approved cord here. All others are no good. That's a bunch of crap. Let me know the name of them and I'll take them to court. First I'll turn it over to the FBI to investigate, we'll document it. Then we'll take them to court. There is no such thing as an OSHA approved. It does not exist. Congress did not give us authority to approve anything. We have adopted ANSI standards and they approve. We've adopted Bureau of Mines standards and they approve. But we don't approve anything. So this extension cord out here, it can be round, square, flat, oval. I don't care what shape it's in, as long as it's UL approved, United Laboratories. As long as it's UL approved, fine. It meets our standards. I had a letter from an employee down on the coast the other day that said the company bought him the first hard hat and he had to buy replacements. Well, he lost his. So he went out and bought a hard hat and brought it in, and it had ANSI standard so-and-so that it met. But it didn't have OSHA approved on it. The company was going to fire him for it because he didn't have it. So he wrote me a letter. So I wrote a letter back to the company telling him there's no such thing as OSHA approved, and as long as his hard hat met ANSI standard so-and-so, and he could, there's two different types. If you're working around electricity, you cannot use aluminum, but you can use aluminum anywhere you want to. So don't let a company make your people get rid of the aluminum hard hats unless they're working around electricity. It's still acceptable.
Mr. Blunt, since you said that it's nothing OSHA approved, when DeSoto, Mississippi Product initiated some of its safety programs in compliance with the OSHA Act, we had an argument about the type of safety goggles that the employees wanted to wear and the kind they required them to wear. The kind that most employees wanted to wear is a much lighter safety goggle than the kind they required them to wear. And their answer was that the reason they couldn't wear the kind they wanted to wear because they wasn't OSHA approved.
These are things which you can correct by telephone call, or go in and sit down with the manager, and call me on the phone and ask him if he'll talk to me. He's glad to give an answer right here. The standards are very clear on the protection that's required. And that's an argumentative point between the union or the employees and management as to what type, because it'd be probably 6 different types that would meet the standards. But for the morale of the employees, which is going to result in production, make them comfortable.
Okay, but what I'm asking you, if an employee went to work Monday morning with the type of glass, if he went and bought him a safety glass,
where's he buying it?
And he, well, I'm just saying, if he went and bought one because he didn't like the kind the company was furnishing, and he went to work with it on, and the company fired him for wearing that particular safety glass, what would be his recourse?
If it met the standards,
met what standards?
Met the OSHA standards.
I think I'm confused between standards and approved.
Forget the word approved then. There's no such thing in the OSHA standards as approved, so just forget that. It says meets OSHA standards. Okay, OSHA standards then will say that safety glasses must meet the standards of so-and-so, and it lists them all. We can furnish you a copy of that. If you have a problem, drop by and we'll give you a copy.
Okay.
Because
you need to go out to see them, sit down, and
when all else fails, sometimes too, have your people read.
I think a lot of us need to.
I think you're gonna probably get a lot of business out of this meeting.
Oh, I didn't tell you where I was, did I? Maybe I should.
Tell them where you're located, where your office is.
Okay,
Right.
we're at the Briarwood exit out here.
Oh, that's a bad place.
Well, it's gonna get better, so the guy said yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we're at 5760 I-55 North. We face the interstate. It is between County Line and Briarwood. So if you come out, get off at County Line and come back. Unless it's the middle of the day, you get off Briarwood.
Don't go there.
Don't go there in the morning. But 5760 I-55 North. It's the A.H. Harkins building contractors building. We have the whole second floor. And by the way, downstairs, Department of Labor Bureau of Apprenticeship Training is going in. I'm sure you're familiar with it. We have 2 offices. Well, not all of them, but they got 2 offices.
What was your address now? I wrote down some of it.
5760. What? I-55 North. That's all you need for folks.
It's on the Frontage Road,
Well, you said Briarwood exit, and I got it.
Well, that's where you get off.
That's where you get off the interstate.
The reason we located there, by the way, I spent about a month looking around here for places. I mean, during that month, I wanted a place that I could tell you in Tupelo how to find us. Ready. And that's the easiest way. We're on the interstate. We face the interstate. But when Beasley goes across, they're going to take that building right out.
You got the worst exit that you could have picked.
Well, they probably going to close that exit. It doesn't meet interstate standards.
I want to ask a question.
Just finish you off.
Want to tell me like you did to me.
of my damn business. I am interested in the inspectors.
Okay.
And the reason I am interested is, they might have the PhD, so forth and so on, but do they know the equipment? And do they have actual experience in this type of work, or something that would take, and the reason I'm asking this is, I know of one plant in the state that has some cranes that have a coupling. Pretty complicated if you don't know something about machinery, a lot about machinery. And this coupling has a retainer ring that is bad, and that with use, this retainer ring will pop out and let some pins come out, and when these, I'll try to explain it as simple as I can. And when these pins come out, not even only the load, but the block, the crane operator has no control over that thing at all. It's gonna hit the floor, whether it's got a load, what happens when these pins come out, there she goes. Now, if you call for, if I file a complaint, or a man in the plant files a complaint, and you come in there, and this is not happening when the inspector's in there, all he can do is look at somebody point out this and take somebody's word that it has happened, that this is.
We'll ask them to operate. We ask them to operate it.
Yeah, but this, what I'm saying is that this operation, the crane can run 3 months, and this not happened, then all of a sudden it happened, is,
Then the complainant, all he's gotta do is show us what happened. That's why we want the complainant to show us these things, or tell us this in the letter. When we go there, the employee walk-around route then should point these things out to us.
Yeah.
We run across this very frequently in Florida, in the maritime industry down there.
What I'm saying is, you catch this thing, it's been caught quite a few times with one pin holding, and it's hit the floor, dropped loads. It just so happened that people were out of the way and didn't kill nobody in the past, but it's practically impossible to catch it when it's actually happening.
Let me tell you, so you asked something there. Let me tell you about our inspectors. Here, I've gone out to get a different type of people than I did in Florida. In the hurry to start up in Florida, I went for the best there was. I had the safety director of Ford Motor Company, safety director of NASA, safety director of New York Port, industrial hygienist from the Canadian government, Dr. McKinney. These are my 4 key people. They were good. They were the best in the nation. And I spent 10 years in schools myself, learning what I know. When they ran into a problem, they would consult with one another. Okay. I made a mistake. I hired them all as GS-13s. There's no room to promote them. Here, I'm hiring people at a lower level so I can promote them up. That makes for better workers. Yet I've only got 113 here. Yet this gives them. No. That gives them room to consult with one another. So my youngest guy is probably my best qualified, C.D. Pritchard III, who worked for the state. C.D. is a 1972 graduate of Mississippi State, safety engineering, by the way. He is good, make no bones about it. He was the one that did the Mississippi product place. What's that called?
It's the soda club.
Yeah, that's excuse me. I've been gone 19 years, so they changed names in the Standard Life building and things like that on me. So, CD knows. He will spend as much time writing it up as he did inspecting, because he'll come in and talk to me about it before he puts it down on paper. And he went over nearly every violation with somebody else or myself. Carl McCoy is a chemical engineer. Carl is excellent inspector. And Doc Crow is excellent. He used to be safety director of General Electric. He's a hygienist as well as safety. And so they do consult with one another back and forth. They are well qualified.
After I ministered in Noah's boil maker, I have built it here from the Noah's noise problems in quite a few of our plants, you could readily see. And, do you have,
Every man has a noise meter. Every inspector has one. I carry one with me all the time. That's one of our target areas right now. This is a target area by President Nixon, not by the Secretary last night. So it's not listed as one of our targets. I'm waiting now in anxiety and anticipation on the day I get a complaint from a cocktail waitress in some of these rock joints.
You should have been down here last
We
night.
moved into one in Florida at Sheridan Inn in Fort Myers. I was there giving a seminar, and was sitting in the cocktail lounge that evening with some friends, and somebody happened to say something to a cocktail waitress as who I was, Safety and Health. She said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah. I want you to do something about the goddamn noise in here." So I went out to the car and brought my noise meter back in, and I set it on the table where I was, and I watched the needle, and I got readings up to 121 decibels, and 90 is the max over an 8-hour period. So I asked her then, "How long do you work in here?" She said, "Well, at least 4 hours." I said, "Do you leave the room at any time?" She said, "No, only go to the bathroom, right back in." So I went all in the place there, this rock band that they had, and as long as I could stand it, I didn't stay 4 hours. And this ran all the time from 100 to 121 in that place. Even when the band wasn't going, the noise was above 90, just conversation in the place. So I went out to management and told them who I was, and I said, "I'll give you exactly 5 minutes to correct it, or I'm going to issue a citation that's going to cost you $2,000. He went out to the amplifier, and there's a little knob on those things. Most kids don't know that. You can just turn them down. That's what he did. But I didn't make an inspection because I'm off duty.
You went out the door, you went over and turned her right back.
Probably did. But we will respond to noise complaints. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Blunt, we appreciate you coming out this morning, spending this time with us. It's been very informative. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of business as a result of this meeting, and I'm going to be talking with you a little later on. I'm sure we're going to probably want you at our next convention, which time we probably have a little more time. We are just about ready to wind up, and so
Good. Okay.
we appreciate you coming.
Thanks. Nice seeing you, gentlemen.
Yeah. We have just about completed the items that we need some action on. We've got 1 or 2 other things that I'd like to take a little time with, but we're running past what I thought would be the agenda time. And some of you might have something that you would like to bring up before we adjourn, so we want to give you that opportunity. Tom said he had an announcement to make. We got a situation, most of you are familiar with it, on judicial reform. I attended this conference not long ago, and I can report to you that we've set up an ad hoc committee, and I'm a member of it. And many of the aims and objectives of this thing is the same as our program. We've already went on record, but I thought you'd be interested in knowing that there will be an effort made in this session of the legislature to do something in this area. I want to see Curtis Orman, two fellows from Tupelo, after the meeting adjourned. We've got a project in North Mississippi I want to get one of you to sit in on, so don't leave when it's over. Your announcement, Tom?
I just want to very briefly, Claude, remind the people here about the Conf conference. You will get a letter, next week, went out yesterday, I believe. It's in Atlanta, Friday, March 1st, for this state. Now, as you know, next year is election year, congressional election. This year, I'm
Still at
behind
73.
time here. I better get up.
That was March 9th, huh?
March 1st, Friday, March 1st. Now, this is a year, of course, when they're inviting attendance and participation from local unions, central bodies, full-time people, everybody in the labor, particularly the leadership in the labor movement. And as we stated in the letter, and you all are well aware that over the years that Al Martin and the National Code has really come through well for us. As you know, we never call on for financial campaign that we don't get it. Most of the international unions with membership in this state have come through real good, and of course, these conferences are put together by Al Barkley and his staff. And I would personally, Claude, like to see as good a delegation as is possible from Mississippi. Now, nobody don't know what the fuel situation will be. We've urged that the locals in an area try to coordinate transportation, maybe get together with car pools. I'll be getting a separate letter out to the presidents of our central labor councils in these areas, asking them to kind of act as transportation coordinators. And I'm sure that, well, it's only one day. We probably won't go over on Thursday and come back on Saturday. So I would like for you to think about this and give it top priority. There'd be 7 states that. And actually, we wouldn't want, when they asked each state delegation to stand, we wouldn't want Mississippi to be the least represented. You know, we've been bottom of the totem pole enough. So we would personally appreciate every effort that you can make to attend, and how people from your local and your organization attend this conference.
Is it just gonna be one day, Tom?
One day.
This March 1st?
Right.
Supposed to drive one day over.
We got those letters out there yesterday.
You are.
I thought what, hey,
I get it out fast, don't I?
Well, don't get them for a
Well,
week.
in connection with that conference, I thought that we would take Woodson and Amy Hollowell, the state council.
Good.
Send those two, if it's okay with you folks. In addition to Tom and myself, we're gonna do that if it's all right.
I've made them for the last 2 or 3 times, but I'll try to make it.
I think we can afford to send the 2 of them over in addition to Tom and myself. At least we'll have 4 people there we know. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
One other thing I might mention, of course, as you know, we are interested in trying to find somebody in the 4th and 5th congressional district to run for Congress against Lott and Cochran. Now, up to this point, there are no prospects. I wanted to get a chance to, Russell Kelly had planned to go over to Gulfport, talk with Representative Gerald Blessey of Harrison County. He's a very progressive young man. He's a very good first-term legislator. And frankly, I think he'd make much better candidate than Ben Stone. And I think he really put his teeth in the thing and get in there and try to win. We're checking, I talked with George Rogers a little last night before we set out to eat about this district. And of course, he don't have no idea at the moment, but we're going to be checking around now pretty briskly in the 2 districts to see what we're going to have. We've got to have a good candidate. We can't, the time's fast when we go out and try to elect somebody because they're the less of the evils. This just won't get it done. We spend what little money we got, waste the time and effort. We have been trying to make some arrangements in the 2nd district to get our freshman congressman board before the people. But frankly, Curtis, I'm just a little bit hacked off at the young man. He has finagled his way out of all of them except Columbus. Now, he's going to make the Columbus meeting. And I have told the chairman of the North Delta organization in Greenwood to forget him and let him ask for a meeting. Then when we get out of the darn campaign, you know, well then we're going to have a few words to say about the thing. Apparently, his voting record is not what it ought to be on the surface. And I simply refuse to be his, his doggone spokesman up there. He's going to have to speak to the people. He's going to have to satisfy them. So we're just going to see now if he's really interested in meeting with the people in the central part of the district or in the western part. After the people in Columbus tie him up real good Monday night week, he may want to go back to Washington and stay, but I'm a little bit irritated with him right now. Of course, we're interested even in the 1st district for the benefit of those people up there. If we can find anybody that we could run and support, and of course in the 3rd district, Raymond. This dad Vern Montgomery was on Channel 16 here the other night, as usual, scotching for Nixon. You know, this guy has really lost his dad Vern mind if he ever really had one. So much for that.
And I'd like to make just a comment. On Bowen, my organization's gonna make a move, and that move is, we've set up in our national headquarters, one of our vice presidents, a fellow named Howard Samuels, in charge of public affairs, which deals also with legislation. He's spending more time in Washington than he is in New York. And in the month of February, there's gonna be a meeting in West Point at our local union hall, I don't remember the date of it, where I'm gonna be bringing together one elected delegate from each one of my local unions, from ACWA only, to set up a committee that's gonna be in contact with Mr. Boyd, and they're gonna be fed information from Samuel's office on all the votes and everything that's going on in the Congress. So we're gonna make a move to see if we can get his attention. I, for one, am not gonna support another candidate if I could help it that's gonna go up there and vote like the other four we've had all these years. I think we're
Well, that's
wasting
what
our
Tom's
time and
talking
money.
about. That's what Tom's
I've just
talking
had a
about.
bait of it. I can't,
Well-
boy, and if he's cast one vote for Labor, I can't find it. Has he voted for Labor anywhere?
Not the recorded votes that have been published.
Not on record.
He voted right on several issues. He voted
What
wrong
was-
on several issues.
What was the right votes? I ain't seen them. I've checked every voting record he's had on Labor issues, and they all just like Whitten and the rest.
Well,
All no.
I've seen some of them on the AFL-CIO news that he was the only one that voted.
No, I haven't seen them. I've seen every one they put out, but,
The key issues you're talking about,
Key
minimum
issues.
wage,
Right.
food stamp bill.
See, this,
trade bill, you name it.
knowing the interest that he generated and the way I
He voted right, I can't find it.
trusted this guy and worked for him like that. This is why I wanted to get him in the meeting of our labor councils in that district and let him report to the people, see? I'm not gonna scotch for him. I wanted him to report to people, and whatever they got on their mind, let him know about it, see? And I could tell you a lot of things, we won't go into it, but I'm really hacked off right now with him, I really am.
I believe we got 7
Well,
votes in his district, we don't have one.
When will you start making preparations to invite people to speak at the next convention? Right away?
You got any suggestions, I'll take them.
I'd
now.
like to make a suggestion. We had the senator from Washington, Henry Jackson, that spoke at the last IBEW convention, and I think he would be accepted real well here. And
We
I'd like to
almost
go-
got him at our last
Who was
one.
that, Joe?
Henry Jackson.
We almost got him at the last one, and I agree with that. And I'm working on Jackson now. I've talked to Joe Davis, the president of Washington State Fed out there, and we're working on Jackson now. This applies to all of you. If you got any particular person that you would like invited to address this convention, let me know about it, because we're starting to work on that thing now. We have to get some of these people well in advance, people like Jackson who have to schedule well. We're gonna try to get it wound up. We got one other item I think we need to spend a half a minute on, that's the speaker situation. And I'll briefly tell you what I think we got. We passed out copies of the Clarion Ledger article on that thing on January 1, and it lists the number of people that's in contention, so to speak, for the speakers thing, and you see George Rogers' name listed there. And the one reason that George didn't want to have too much to say here last night about that was the fact that he is more or less available for that position. Now, a lot's going to depend on, what happens this next week. But the real fight on this thing, if it comes, will not be until the following week. There are a group of progressive-minded House members that have been having some caucuses. I've been talking to several of them. Jim Walters is one of them, and they're going to let me know as soon as they decide what horse they want to try to ride, if any. There's several people listed here that I think we could go with that's in that list. And of course, George is probably the most capable man over there, but I've got some reservations about whether or not he can muster enough votes to win.
It ain't Stone Barfield, I know.
Stone is not one of them.
Well, he's listed in this story, though.
I'm talking about that we can support him,
No,
but that group can support
right.
him. Now, let me touch on the ones that's mentioned in the story. We got Rogers, of course. Sonny Meredith is kind of a middle road sort of a guy. I would put Walter Brown probably next to George Rogers. I'd start with George Rogers, next in line would be Walter Brown, and then probably Sonny Meredith next. Jimmy Morrow from Brandon would be better than some of the other mentioned candidates. That's about the way I'd categorize.
Walter Brown, the young man that runs for Congress?
Yeah, right. Now, the only thing I know to do about this situation, we'll have to kind of play it by ear, and after I've conferred with the people after they've had their caucuses, it looks like we need to do some work out there in that field and try to line up some votes. I'll just have to get the message out to everybody, okay? That's the only way I can see to deal with it now. Now, do we have anything any of you like to bring up before we adjourn the meeting? Appreciate everybody coming. We've had a very good meeting, I think. It's been very informative. This Blunt we just had in here, he's a dyed-in-the-wool Republican. He's an excellent supporter. If by God, you can tell one thing, he means business. He's going to enforce the law. And I'm convinced here today that we made the right decision in killing that damn State Usher Act. Aren't you folks? Don't you feel better about it? All right, I'd like to see Curtis and the two guys from Tupelo for just a half minute. Good luck.
Objects to the idea, anybody objects to the schedule we have here, or anybody that don't feel this can be pulled off, period, in your particular area. And one of the unfortunate things is looking the group over, there's several central bodies that's not represented here by any of the elected officers of that particular central body. Now, while that soaks just a little bit, I got something else. I'm going to get it all in here before you get away, if you'll just be patient with me. We've got another problem, and that is simply this, that there's a number of local unions in this state that are affiliated and have been affiliated with the state AFL-CIO for some years. And according to our records, to this day, we've never received the names and addresses of their members, and we simply cannot communicate with the people unless we have their names and addresses. Now, I've got a list here. We don't have the time to go into the whole list of those that we have never received a list from, and also those that we originally received a list from, and since that time they've never been updated. Now, we all know it's hard enough, and I've talked to people here today that hadn't got out of mail in 5 or 6 years, and for some reason or other they haven't moved, so there's something wrong now. It's hard enough where lists are updated and kept as current as humanly possible. But it's really something else to mail to people that you don't have the names and addresses. Now, I'm going to read a list of local unions here, and this doesn't mean to say that we're throwing anything at any particular person or any particular union. Some of you folks will be talking to some of the people that represent some of these locals. Some are right here in the hall. Now, these we've never received a list from at any time. If we have, we don't have any record. Aluminum workers, Local 216 in Wren, Mississippi. Now, that's a big city between Amory and Oklahoma in Chickasaw County, or Monroe County. Boilermaker 690, Greenville. Carpenters 1409, Greenwood. Carpenters 2085, Brookhaven. Carpenters 2568, Grenada. Carpenters 2692, Columbia. IBEW 1210, Laurel. Firefighters 2089, Corinth. Firemen or Oilers 545, Vicksburg. Glass Bottle Blowers 100, Olive Branch. Glass Workers 401, Brandon. Iron Workers 702, Meridian. Jewelry Workers Local 4, Hernando, Mississippi. That's just a little bit different situation. That's part of a Chicago organization, and take all day to go into it, but nevertheless, we haven't got their membership list. Laborers 233, Louisville, Mississippi. Longshoreman 1303, Herbert Gulfport. Longshoreman 1967, Pascagoula. Machinist 312, Meridian. Neither one of the 6. We've never got, there's only 6 people that local. Tell Earl Meldon to do something if it's wrong, yeah? IEM 2249, Picayune. IEM 2350, New Albany. Meat Cutters 515, West Point. Painters 1967, Grenada. Plasterers 387, Hattiesburg. Plumbers 714, Columbus.
Retail clerks 458 Mobile, and boys from Alabama ought to be in here that. Rubber workers 651 Vicksburg. Steel workers 7768 Winona. Steel workers 7772 Louisville. Steel workers 7901 Greenville. Steel workers 15198 Aberdeen. IWA 5-104 Meridian. IWA 5-349 Gloucester. IWA 5-50 Meridian. Now, we can't do anything without communicating with the membership, regardless of what the occasion might be of the importance, if we don't have the mailing list. The mail that recently went to the membership regarding the drug program, the tire program, none of these people got it because, you know, it's obvious. So, my friends, we need your help. Some of you, as I say, are here that have some acquaintance and relationship with some of these local unions. Others of you may come in contact with them. They're going to receive a letter, and we've got another monstrous list of people whose lists haven't been updated since 68, 69, 70. So you can see we got a real problem communication-wise with rank and file membership. So if you see anybody, tell them for God's sake to do what they can to correct this situation. Ms. Wilson. Glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. Of course, the executive board, I believe, if I remember the action last night, was something like this, that they would go part of the way. Now, we realize some central labor councils are in a pretty bad way. Their budget's about like my personal budget. It's busted long ago. Others do have some money. Now, I believe, as I recall, the position of the board was that we'd try to go $200 from the state AFL-CIO to each of these dinners. Now, there's no question but what we're going to have to stretch that a little bit in certain areas. And here again, we don't want anybody to get the idea we're playing favoritism or anything like that. Facts are facts, and you can't change them very easily sometimes. Does this answer your question? Meridian happens to be one of those rich central bodies, and they got money to burn over there, and I happen to know this, and I don't think they got any problem. Are they?
If you'll recall, I said that the crucial decision had to be made by the central bodies, and remember that we want you to stay here. This is one of the reasons for it, okay?
Are there other questions?
We don't have to feed them people, do we?
What people? Yeah, we got to feed them, damn press them. See, in order to harness a horse, you got to have his head in the trough most of the time, or some of them. State that again, Brother Fly.
Based on this thing that the board has suggested can be changed by something conflicts with something else.
Yeah, it can be, just so we don't try to get two scheduled the same night, you know.
Well, I mean, that's all right. I mean, you'd like to know ahead of time. Ours is
Right,
in November,
right.
And if it's, say, 2 days or 3 days after or something, as long as they let the state officers know and see if it meets their proof.
This is true. Now, one other thing I want to mention about this schedule. If you noted, we did not take in consideration the regular meeting date of any central body, because with our schedule and the way this would have to be done and the preparation that goes into this, I think that the central bodies would go along with us and just disregard their regular meeting date during this period of time. See? Well, you've asked a loaded question there. I'll put it like this. There is provisions in the constitution of the state organization that requires a certain amount of back per capita tax if a local union has been in arrears for a certain period of time. But since, and most of you will remember the very lean days here, and the executive committee and the executive board of the state organization taken a very liberal position on that and felt that we ought to have the labor movement working together, and nobody really sought to impose any undue hardships, and those constitutional provisions were kind of stretched, you know, all out of proportion. And really, local unions have been readmitted, rightly or wrongly, by simply starting paying per capita tax again. Of course, there are provisions on the Constitution, and where they do this, then their votes and delegates in the convention is based from the time they actually re-affiliated.
Tom, you got provisions with the AFL-CIO, state and central bodies covering that.
What you mean, Al? You mean in the rules from Washington?
That's what he's talking about,
Yeah,
stretching.
yeah,
Stretching those rules.
we've stretched them all out of proportion, really, because it was a position of the board and the committee that we needed to encourage people to come back into the state organization. And of course, the same has been true with the central body. The name of the game is working together, and this is the organization around which we have to build any program that we have if we're going to do any good.
Let me speak to that just a minute, Cecil. I talked to Colonel Mister, I think, about the situation that you have in mind.
This is not my local.
No, it's not your local, it's one in Hernando. But, and this might be well to get this out for everybody to understand it. We can accept the affiliation, re-affiliation from one of these groups by simply paying a 20 cents per member a month with issue dues. They then become fully affiliated. But it must be understood when we have a convention that because of the pro rata vote system we have, where it's based upon the average membership over a 2-year period, that they won't be allowed the number of votes had they been properly affiliated this whole period of time. The only thing that this does, frankly, is take away from them some of the votes that they can cast in a convention had they paid their per capita for this whole period. With that understanding, we got no problem, okay? That applies to anybody.
I've been asked to explain why Brother Fitzhugh is carrying this mic around. I don't have anything to do with the audio in here, but it does make sure that we get on the tape. You see, we got this place bugged. We want to make sure that everything that by everybody said is on this, and of course, after you get back about the third row, this mic doesn't pick it up, so we've got an extension mic, and that's the reason for him carrying the mic around. Now, the other question about this proposed program and schedule and the arrangements that we've quickly outlined. Perry.
Mr. Knight, I think this program's well and good, but I think we've got a problem here. I've seen it over the last 12, 15 years that these people will be invited to wine and dine with the representatives and senators of the area, and the minute the whining and dining is over, they're going home and they forget about it. I know in my local, it won't be 3 people out of the 700 that'll ever call a senator or representative in the state to suggest that they do something. And some of these people that are appointed to represent a Central Labor Council, it's harder to catch them than it is to catch the senators and representatives or get them to do something. So I think the people that are put into these positions to get out and contact these senators and representatives, these dinners should be people that will work instead of just going for a feast.
Let's say this about this now. We're going to have the meeting of the central body officers here as soon as we break up the general meeting, and I think that's going to be in a few minutes. But let's make clear everybody understands that the dinner meeting is going to be sponsored by the Central Labor Council. The Central Labor Council is going to be responsible for those people that are invited. That is the labor people. That you're not supposed to be opening up the doors for everybody out there, or members of the labor movement. It'd be impossible to feed that many. My thinking, and our thinking on this proposal is that you will invite the leadership, the delegates to your central bodies, the people that do the work, you know. But you, in final analysis, Brother Perry, and all the other central bodies will decide who's going to be invited from organized labor to attend the dinner meeting. We don't have any problems on the invites to the legislators. You know, we know who they are. We'll invite all of them. But it should be clearly understood that the central bodies themselves
will decide who they want to invite. Otherwise, we might have 400 or 500 people, and we can't afford that, okay?
Mr. Knight, I think this program could serve another purpose. Now, in our particular area, we cover Alcorn, Prentiss, Tippa, and Tishomingo counties. And we have local unions who have not affiliated with our Central Labor Council. And I haven't had a chance to talk to the other CLU officers here today about this, but I want us to get together and invite the principal officers of these different locals to this dinner. And I think maybe that it might have a little bearing on their thoughts toward affiliating with our Central Council.
Your point's well taken, Doris, and that's one of the thoughts really that the board had when they proposed this program, is that it will help to create interest in the local labor council, and God knows there's always room. We do have some that operate fairly well and effective, and others are just hanging there breathing their last breath. You think week after week, well, it's dead, and then it'll wiggle a little more, you know, a little, show a little more life, and you start pumping again and keep it alive. But that is, I'm glad you mentioned that, and that's one of the thoughts behind this whole program. Are there any other comments or any other questions? Brother Clark.
About 15 years ago, I think you remember, we come over to Berlin, we had one of these such suppers at that time.
And I was just a kid 15 years ago.
It's all right.
You better correct that.
At that time, we had all of our legislatures from the Meridian area to come in to Meridian. We invited the ones out in the other counties, but didn't any of them show up. In other words, like the Meridian Central Labor Council, I presume y'all talking about all 5 counties that they represent, is that right?
All of them.
Okay. We didn't have any luck at all with the ones outside of the Meridian area because of the fact that we didn't have laboring people in those other counties, and they didn't care whether or not we liked them or whether we didn't. I think the main problem we faced here this evening is Bob still back there. We need to get Bob Starnes cranked up and get him to organize some more people around this state and get this organizing campaign going again like he did a few years ago, and get this coordinated effort, he called it, you know. That's where the problem lies, is outside of the area that where labor is represented. I know we're fortunate enough that we have one of the, I guess, 3 labor counties in the state. But when you get outside of Lauderdale County, it's just as dead there as it is anywhere. I don't know what your solution would be to inviting them in. You're probably not going to have any response to these people. You may have 2 or 3 from the whole outside counties there. But I just thought I'd throw that out there for you to think about.
Well, every area's got some dry counties, Brother Clark.
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad Brother Clark spoke for me. He just bragged coming in here a little bit earlier that he had the #1 Central Labor Union in the state. The Columbus and vicinity Central Labor Union covers 7 counties, and we have representation in all of them except 1, so you're not ahead of us in that particular area, you know. I raised here, I was just ribbing Brother Clark. He and I have a lot of fun. I rise to offer a motion at this time that we adopt this program that has been presented to us, and that we work toward its objective and make it a reality.
You're the chairman. There's been a motion made. You heard the motion. Is there a second? Are there any discussion now? Brother Fly.
Talking about just union people, well, we not. I mean, how are we going to help me on the minimum wage? We're going to interest all these people, as working people in this thing, and we're going to be talking to all the working people. That we're going to don on these legislators. What you got out in Amid County, we got a senator from out there that don't have a handful of union people, but he's listening to us now. And he's got working people. These are the people that we want, all working people, not union people. We want all the working, just like the Randolph Institute. They ain't talking about working people. They want labor people, but we're talking about all blue-collar workers now, getting them interested in our county. I mean, not only the labor, of all the surrounding areas, and we want all these representatives from outside of Adams County, regardless of whether you got any labor in that county or not.
Well,
I think that's the purpose of it, isn't it?
I think, Brother Fly, everybody here realizes and agrees that the labor movement's objectives have always been directed toward the working people. And of course, with regard to things like minimum wage, we have very few people that are members of unions affected. However, there are some that it certainly gives them a boost during contract negotiations, some of the lower paid industries. But every time we work for minimum wage, of course, we're helping people that don't belong to unions. Our whole program has always been directed toward the working class of people. Any other discussion? Beckham.
Speaking of the, you mentioned about the congressman that Labor elected in this last go-round. I'd like to say something in behalf of the people from the district in which he comes. I would think that the reason that he didn't get any mail or telegrams or telephone calls was because the union people get better than the minimum wage. So they say to themselves, well, why bother him? I'm already getting that wage, and let him be his own judge. I think that could have had some effect on the results of not receiving any mail, telegrams, telephone calls. But by the same token, I think this program is very well worthwhile, and that we've got to start someplace, and we might as well start here. And I think that the Executive Council of the AFL-CIO state, AFL-CIO, has taken the right step in the right direction. And I think it's left up to we people on the local front to help them implement and get this thing on foot and going.
Thank you. Is there other discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, so ordered. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. It will be noted the vote was unanimous. Now, Sarah, you said you wanted the floor for a minute, I believe, before we recess. Now, we're going to try to break the full conference up as soon as we can, and then ask the officers of the central bodies to stay back. And Brother Fly and Brother Jackson, I'd like for the two of you to stay here in this meeting, because I note that we don't have an officer, the president at least, of the central bodies in Hattiesburg and Natchez present. I've tried to take note of the other areas, and I believe all the other areas, with the exception of Macomb. I don't believe we have anybody at all here from Macomb, do we? Apparently we'll have to do with that one separate. But I'd like the two of you to sit back here, come in here when we have the conference, sent by the people, so you can communicate with the officers, proper officers. Okay, all right, Ms. Wilhite.
I would like to make a request of all of you, if you have a pencil and piece of paper, that you take down my address, please. I'll give you... my husband is home on disability. Does that answer that? It's Sarah, S-A-R-A, G, Wilhite, W-I-L-H-I-T-E. Post Office Box 624, Pascagoula, Mississippi. Pascagoula. Zip code 39567. Now, I'm certain that in Mississippi many of you come in contact with teachers, and thank God for our legislature. They have made conditions ripe in Mississippi for formation of a teachers' union. And thank God for our laboring people and our unions. We in Jackson County, in Pascagoula, we contacted our labor leaders, and that's why we have a union today. And a relatively strong and effective union has been formed there in just a very short time. We are preparing a newsletter to go out to our membership this next week, talking about some of the things that we have done to inform them of it. Maybe some of you will know some teachers over the state that would like a copy of that newsletter. I think it may impress them, and we would be glad to send them a copy if you just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And I assume that if they're interested in organizing a teachers' union, that you'll see that they are contacted by the appropriate person.
Yes, we're very interested in our Mississippi AFC chapter.
Good. All right, do we have anything else now that anybody would like to bring before this conference before we adjourn the full meeting? With the understanding the central body officers will be asked to stay over. Brother Frank?
Brother Ramada, building, office. I don't think you need this on that. This is something happened last night. One of the gate board officers and very much dedicated union member in the Northern District. Miss Doris Miller was out for lunch. When she discovered she lost the billboard, she was out for lunch. At this time, it's okay and in line. Anyone that would like to make up the law that she saw for us in this meeting today, last night, all right. It's going to be the turn the box, and I'll start it off by dropping the dollar in. So, all right, you can check that.
Let's see, somebody had a hat. Didn't I see Bob Woodson wear a hat here this morning? Get your hat, Bob.
You lost $113.
$113, all right. I think that's, everybody kicks in a buck out of this conference, you'll just about be taken care of. Now, Bob, we'll hold up for just a minute for you to pass that hat and see if we got anything else. Apparently we don't have. Let me give you a bit of information while he's passing that box or the hat or whether they wind up passing here. Last night at our board meeting, I passed out a copy of a front page news story in the Meridian Star that I thought was very appropriate, and I think that you will be encouraged over this. Brother Clark's organization, largely responsible for it in the Meridian area. On the front page of the newspaper this past week was a story about the city council in Meridian had voted to recognize and bargain with both the city policemen's union and the firefighters union. Now, to me, that's real progress. We do have a few other areas of the state where the public employees are recognized by the governing authorities. Hopefully this will happen in Pascagoula before long with the school teachers, because the firefighters and the municipal workers have been recognized and do have contracts in that area. But I wanted you to know that there's another area that this just recently happened, and it didn't happen by accident. The Meridian Central Labor Council, represented by the officers here today, are responsible for this having happened. I had the privilege just a couple of weeks ago of attending a meeting of the Meridian Central Labor Council, and I'd like for you to get the implications of this. Brother Clark asked me to come over to one of their meetings, that they were going to, this matter was coming up, and they were going to have some members of the city council attend their labor council meeting. Well, I got over there, and they had a very good attendance, a very good meeting.
But the thing that impressed me, and I think that will interest you, was that the mayor of the city of Meridian and a majority of the city council of Meridian were all present at Mr. Clark's Central Labor Council meeting. They wasn't down in the city hall. The Central Labor Council didn't go to city hall. The mayor and the city council came to the union hall and met with the labor people there. And, you know, I explained to them the legality of the whole thing, what had transpired in Pascagoula and other places. That's what he asked me to come over for. And I'm happy, and I know you ought to know, that as a result of their hard work, they've got some good action over there, and the public employees now have been recognized and things of that kind. And Brother Johnson, I shall make copies of that news story for you to present to Mayor Davis in the very near future. And anybody else that's interested in it, I'll make it available to you. All right, they have passed the hat. They have collected the money. We appreciate all those contributions, don't we, Joe? And Doris, would you like to say a word before we break up? You want to wait till they count the money? Well, it looked to me like, Doris, that they have a box full and a hat full, you know, and it looks like you're going to do pretty good. I got you all the way. All right, let me say again, Tom Knight and myself and all the other officers of the State Council deeply appreciate this attendance here today. We're looking forward to your cooperation in the future. Now, we're going to try to meet with the officers here in a few minutes and see what we can work out. I'm sure that some of these dates won't be right. We'll have to work out who's going to do what. But we want all of you in attendance here to go back and talk to the people you represent, the officers and the delegates of these central bodies, and tell them what we've done here and impress upon them the importance of getting our people out to these dinners. I intend to make every one of them. Tom Knight and myself will be at each and every one of them unless something happens to prevent it. And there might be the possibility that some other of the state officers might attend some of them. But I intend to try to be at each and every one of them if at all possible. Okay? All right, let's adjourn the big meeting. The Central Labor Council officers come front. Brother Davis, yes, sir? You got the money counted?
Claude, I would just like to thank those persons present for contributing $70.40 to Doris's loss.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right, the meeting's adjourned with the exception of the central body officers. You all come up front. Well, worked out good. This I can put in the front here. Number one, we want to know about your financial situation in terms of financing the dinner. Now, the proposal is that we have a dinner meeting, that we invite the members of both houses out of your district, along with the delegates, the leadership of the union movement in your area. Now, of course, if you've got somebody that's not a member of the labor movement that you'd like to invite, that's your prerogative, and that should be handled by each individual Central Labor Council. You know, this type of thing that Bob was talking about. All right, so let's, and the date, you see.